Yeah, live. Welcome to the 8th Somaiya International Conference on Technology and Information Management, SICTIM 2022. This year, the theme for the conference is Technology Inclusion, the Only Way Ahead. I would like to take this moment to welcome our Area Chairperson of Data Science, Dr. Devendranath Jha sir, and our conference convener, Dr. Chandan Sanghvi. In order to brief us about the topic, we request Jha sir to address the attendees.
Good morning, one and all. Respected Vice Chancellor, sir, Dr. Monica Khanna, Dean and Director and Support, Convener of the conference, Dr. Chandan Sanghvi, Co-Convener, Sudarshan, sir, dear fellow area chairperson, my faculty colleagues, dear student friends who are here, as well as those who are connected online, my admin colleague, that's again another very support system. Everybody out here, nothing is possible without the support of the young, enthusiastic students that we have. Though you said 8th conference, I would call it as the first phygital conference. We are trying it on a hybrid mode in real sense. Hybrid is a very common word used, but we normally talk it as phygital. So we started deliberating on the various themes that we wanted to put across for this conference. And it was all online discussions over the Zoom. We, in fact, last 1 year, we started thinking about what the theme should be. And a lot of people gave us a lot of ideas about it. And then we went back into the history where how India was, at that time referred to as a state with a snake charmer, a country with a lot of superstitious belief, elephant as the only mode of transport. And then we moved slowly and of course became the largest democracy of this world. And then, yes, technology invaded us. We thought the only way forward would be technology at that time when India became an outsourcing hub. Mumbai as a city, those who know about it, knows that this city never slept. Okay, as you know, we used to say British Raj, the sun would never set. We used to call Mumbai a city that would never sleep. Okay, it would work. And then suddenly this COVID struck us. Okay, and nobody knew what should be done, how we will proceed across it. And to our luck, okay, the technology came as an intervention. A real disruption could be seen only during this COVID-19. The another point which made us think about the theme was, we saw a lot of people moving from villages to these cities, because Pune became the hub of IT, Hyderabad became a hub of IT, Gurgaon, Mumbai, and so on and so forth. The COVID-19 made us believe that there could be a reverse migration. The youth started going back to their villages. The technology developed over there. Though there are a lot of things still to be done, okay? Though we talk about inclusion, there are a lot of, because India is a country with a lot of cultural diversity. To be fair and impartial, to provide technology at the cheapest possible rate, or economical as we call it, is still a great journey ahead. With this theme in mind, I welcome each one of you. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of idea sharing. We have got wonderful papers in the afternoon. There will be a lot of insights into it. And maybe from this conference, we would have more themes to work across it. We plan to start series of lectures on the Center of Excellence, Data Science, which we have just launched last year. It's a very nascent stage. So we'll get a lot of ideas onto this. Dear students, we want you to keep a note of it and start participating into it, because we are, I'm sure Vice Chancellor Sir is here. We will have slowly the campus becoming live and all of you would be coming across it. Once again, I welcome our Chief Guest, Dr. Satish Patil, who will be addressing us today, and everybody all. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity for me to begin the conference. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insight. We are pleased to have with us today our Honorary Vice Chancellor, Dr. V. N. Rajshekharan Pillai, to grace us on this occasion, and we would request him to say a few words.
Dr. Monica Khanna, Director of the Somaiya Institute of Management, Professor Devendranath Cha, Area Chairperson of the area Science and Technology in the Institute of Management, my colleague from the Somaiya Institute of Management, Chief Guest of the Day, Dr. Satish Patil, distinguished participants from our institutions as well as from other institutions across the world. First of all, let me congratulate the Somaiya Institute of Management and the Department of Science and Technology for organizing the 8th International Conference on Technology and Information Management. I am extremely glad that a very eminent technologist, Dr. Satish Patil, is addressing the conference as chief guest today. Let me also congratulate the entire team of the Somaiya Institute of Management and this particular area for continuously holding these conferences for the last 7. This is the 8th in the series. Let me congratulate each and every one of them. On behalf of the Somaiya Vidya Vihar University and on my personal behalf, I extend a hearty welcome to each and every participant for this conference. I understand that the theme of this conference today is technology inclusion. This is a very relevant, this has been a very relevant topic for the last maybe 2 decades, but during the last 2 years, we have seen the relevance of it, probably the paradigm shifts which has happened, and also the challenges which we face for technology inclusion. I understand that large number of papers are being presented through a series of filtration and peer review. I am sure that the recommendations of this conference will be definitely useful, not only for our institution, but for the knowledge and skills in this particular area. So the problems which we have to address is how does the technology help inclusion? So then we have to define what is technology and what is inclusion. And these definitions will change depending upon the context. These definitions of technology and inclusion will change. It will change from place to place. It will change from region to region. We have seen such challenges, and therefore definitely the inclusion will have a different connotation after 10 years. Inclusion had a different connotation before 10 years. So the context of whether it be technology, whether it be inclusion, all these things are changing. So how can you make technology more inclusive? So there is no need of defining what is inclusive, including everybody, not only human being, probably including the whole components of the living systems. That is precisely the inclusion. So how technology can help in that regard. So if you just look at the history of technological innovations, we can see that there had been paradigm shifts in certain areas in technology. For example, India probably lost several science and technology breakthroughs, but information technology breakthrough came in India as a paradigm shift, as a quantum shift in our approaches. That is why we are a very strong power in information technology. Not only in India, our youngsters are working across the world. We may be sitting in India and working for corporates across the world by the use of technology. So India has really welcomed technology, and there are ample examples of clear quality growth by way of imbibing technology in our approaches. There, of course, when the literacy problem was there, I have a direct knowledge of one district in India which was most illiterate, in India. That district became first 100% computer literate district in the whole of the country after several years. Because the elderly persons, particularly the parents, were illiterate. They didn't know how to write the ABC or 1, 2, 3. But when the technology invasion came, computers came in large, and there was no other option for them to communicate with their children and grandchildren who are using technology across the world. So a computer literacy movement was introduced, and this particular district, which was illiterate in letters and numbers, they became the first computer literate, first 100% computer literate state district in the whole world. This has been mentioned in the UNDP report during that time, maybe early 90s or late 80s. So this is the type of technological, but it's some sort of a quantum jump which is happening. For example, we could see that the very old people, 80 or 70 and all that, they were using technology much more handy than middle level people. That happened in several districts and several states in the country, and there are clear examples. That is the power of technology. And then during the last 2 years, we have seen how technology has changed the landscape of teaching. I have been a teacher for the last 5 decades. Whenever, maybe I worked in the area of distance education, I worked in the area of technology-enabled learning. In these areas I worked, and then I used to say that technology cannot teach, only teachers can teach. I used to say that. Even now, I will substantiate that. But then we have seen that during the last 2 years, technology teaching. But then we are forgetting whether it is the technology teaching. No, it is the teachers who are teaching. They are using the tool. And this similarly, such things happened when in print revolution also. When the computers and internet, all these things happened, we thought the newspapers will lose the complete face. Newspapers will disappear. Did any print media disappear? No, they did not disappear. Print media is in much more technology empowered phase. Their face has changed. Print media is maybe more prosperous with the technological interventions. They are also using technology. So that is, first is inclusion of technology in our activities, whether it be in education, whether it be in social upliftment, whether it be in business. Inclusion of technology, that's one thing. So with the inclusion of technology, nothing should be excluded. That is the most important. So when it comes to inclusion of technology, if some section of people are getting excluded from the benefit of technology, that is definitely we have to just address. That is also happening. Similarly, in that case, we have to address that inclusion of people of all kinds, irrespective of their capabilities, irrespective of their capabilities in all areas, whether it be wealth or resources. We have to just ensure that they are included. Then we have to think about how there is a feeling that technology will make everything uniform. I think if technology is going to make everything uniform, then the human race is not going to exist. The technology has to help diversity. It's very important. You cannot make everything uniform. Technology has to just look at cultural diversity, social diversity, economic diversity, all sorts of diversities. And we should not even aim saying that technology will just include everything. That inclusion with retention of diversities of all kinds. That is what is necessary. So there, of course, you will be discussing what are the examples of promoting inclusion. I mentioned a clear case which happened in there maybe almost 4 decades ago, that computer literacy and the functional literacy. Then so there are clear examples of promoting inclusion. And when it comes to promoting inclusion and using technology, we have to just understand the context of the technology. That's very important. For example, it may not be, you cannot say that all technologies are going to include everything. No, it's not possible also. For example, when we just look at agriculture, women working in agriculture field, of course, you can see technology empowering them. Similarly, in the coastal areas of several countries, particularly in India, the fisher folk using technology in a very, very big way across they have been using it. And in the marketing, of course, in a management institution, and in the marketing, how you make use of technology to get the product's maximum price. Even the farmers, the fisher folk, they are all in the villages. They are now using technology to find the best price of their products without any middleman intervention. So there are all clear examples. So in technology in education, we have seen that for the last 2 years, technology has taught. And then we have also, there had been clear, now of course studies are going on in a very significant way, sociological surveys of what has really happened in the 2 years. There had been clear, probably unfortunate examples of exclusion also. And even when it comes to education, particularly in primary education and lower level education, there had been clear examples of exclusion because of because of the connectivity problem, because of the network problem. There has been. So we have to just look at it. These are all not defects of technology. These are not drawbacks of technology. These are actually we human beings, when we use technology, we have to understand that context of the components whom we are going to serve, and the diversity in those components. So for example, workplace diversity, equity and inclusion, how technology can help. And then several such things are diversity and inclusion can enable organization by change. We have seen organizations, institutions, companies, in all these cases, you can see clear examples of diversity and inclusion enabling the organization and in a significant way. So during the last 2 years, we have clear examples of how technology has conquered us 90% in a positive way, and maybe 10% in a negative way. Definitely, we have to just address those issues. So, how gender equality infuses science and technology, for example, in climate change. We are talking about technology in climate change. So it's going to make a significant change in understanding the climate change through technology. So technology, we cannot say that technology inclusion is the only way. The right kind of technology inclusion is the only way, understanding the text and context of not only the technology, but the technology users. I am sure that you will discuss several of these issues, and any challenge give us opportunities to understand our behavioral patterns, our approaches to different things, and it's particularly important that a very prominent institute, our Institute of Management, organizes this event, and this particular conference will have added significance because of the corona and the pandemic. Thank you very much. Let me wish the program all success.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really great, hearing from you that you have more than my age, experience in the education field, which is something really amazing. So I just wanted to know one thing, though we are saying that technology inclusion in education is really picking up or something, but honestly, as a faculty, I really did not enjoy teaching students with, mic switched off or the video switched off and all. The kind of connect I used to get in my class, assurance of learning which I used to get looking at their expression, faces and all, which I really did not get as a faculty. So what's your take on that?
Definitely, I mentioned it. I said, I used to say it when I was heading a technology, largest distance education and online education institution in the country and in the whole world, Indira Gandhi National Open University. We have devised several things for education. Then I used to say that you cannot replace teachers. There was a feeling that teachers will be replaced. You cannot replace teachers. So wherever I used to go, I used to say technology cannot teach, only teachers can teach. But even now that is the case. Even now that is the case. For the last almost 1 month, I am continuously in the campus. I have been seeing students walking around here and all that. It makes a totally different feeling. So the face of teaching, the face of teacher, the teacher-student interaction, such things one-to-one, they are not at all going to diminish. Probably they get that such interaction gets an added significance even after these technological breakthroughs. And therefore, I reinforce the point that only teachers can teach.
Welcome, Dr. Satish. I just thank you that you have made your commitment even if you have such a high fever. So thank you so much for your presence. Welcome. Over to you, Aishwarya. Participants, if you have any question, please put in chat so Aishwarya can take those questions for you to VC sir, and VC sir can probably answer those. Here also, if you have from the participants here, please ask. And to make it more physical, what we have done is our comparer, one is sitting with us in here and one is over Zoom. So we have made that also physical. If you have any questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for those wise words. We also have with us today our director, Dr. Monica Khanna. We welcome you, ma'am, and we request you to share your thoughts, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, all of you. And first of all, I want to congratulate the Department of Science and Technology for being the first department to pioneer a digital conference in the institute. So I think it is very some sort of a divine. It is thing that the Department of Science and Technology itself is propagating digital conferences, and I do believe this is going to be a way of the future. I also want to congratulate the department for choosing a very relevant theme, and that is technology inclusion, the only way ahead. As I was thinking about what I should be speaking today for a few minutes, VC sir has spoken so much in depth, and I think really enlightened us on the issues of technology inclusivity and exclusivity. I thought I can just talk a little bit on the economic and social aspects of technology inclusivity or exclusivity. I think today, as an educated population who has the access and knowledge of technology, it's very important for us to dwell on the economic impact of the inclusivity or exclusivity. Because the disruptions that are happening, there are so many platform-based businesses that have come. For example, businesses like the Zepto and businesses like Zomato, which are promising deliveries in 10 minutes, in 9 minutes, in 15 minutes. Now, these are something which are definitely impacting the smaller businesses, the local, small businesses who are delivering products to us. And these people, they cannot even compete with the high-end technology which is being utilized by many of these platform-based businesses. So I also think that there should be so much of simplification of technology that there will be very easy inclusivity of all sections of the population so that nobody suffers. So far, for the technology inclusion, what we have seen is a very good economic impact, as far as increasing the earnings and increasing the social status of a lot of section of the population. As VC sir has rightly pointed out, Indians are all over the world and they are managing the best IT companies in the world. So if there is a positive impact of technology inclusion for a certain section of the population, I think we should also look that the technology gets so simplified that the lower end of the population who do not have even the basic education, they should not suffer the negative side of technology inclusion into every aspect of our life and doing business. So I think this is something that as an educated population, we should be, and as researchers and educators, I think this is something that we should be looking at. And we should also see that jobs are getting automated and there is a lot of redundancy that's happening among the lower end of the jobs that are being conducted. And this is another issue that one needs to take cognizance of. And it's very important that technology inclusion and all these aspects of technology get inculcated in the school curriculum from the childhood itself, so that the redundancy that is happening, the job shifts that are happening in society, these are really taken care of, and all sections of society should get benefited by these by technology inclusion. And another thing that I was thinking of is that social equity can be built only through digital inclusivity. I think this is something that I really thought about, because if we have the fruits of technology and progress only for one section of society, it can create a lot of problems. Because of the COVID, the manner in which technology has been adopted by different sections of society, I think this is something which is very creditable. I think Indians, we are very adaptable and we are very quick to adopt to change. And I think this is something which is a very positive sign for all of us. And as educators, we have seen the tectonic shifts that have happened in the education sector. And without digital inclusion, I don't think we will also be effective teachers. The manner in which the young students are consuming knowledge, that is, a lot of it is visual, and a lot of it is, less of it is like, chalk and talk and verbal. So again, we will all have to adhere or adopt to the changes and the rapid advances that are happening in technology. So this is my two-bit thought today in the morning. It's really a very good topic, and I think the Center of Excellence should be going forward and conducting more and more research on the aspects of technology inclusion. As VC sir has said, it is not the only way ahead, and I do believe that that is not the only way ahead. We should not abandon our traditional methods, and I think the Department of Technology itself has shown that they have not abandoned the tradition by starting this technology conference with a prayer, with a traditional prayer. So definitely we have, I think we need to balance traditions and technology so that everybody can take the fruits of the progress that are happening in the field of technology. So my best wishes, I'm sure very good papers are coming up, and this is the way forward. This is the way forward. And today a lot of ideas will be put forward, and I hope that there'll be a lot of learning for all of us, and especially for the Department of Science and Technology. I'm sure you guys are going to become bigger and bigger in the years to come. This conference will be big, and more participants will be coming forward. So good luck to all of you, and a very good day of the conference today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your words. We shall now have the release of the abstract proceedings of the conference by our dignitaries.
Digital inauguration of the compendium, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Around 25 papers we received. Few were rejected on the account of rejection. Few were rejected at business level, and around 15 papers are going to get the rejected date. this room as well as in number one. Physically? No, few participants are here and few will be away from here.
True sense physical.
Tushar, you can take over here.
Thank you, Aishwarya. We would also like to extend a warm welcome to our chief guest for this year's conference, Dr. Satish Patil. Dr. Patil is the founder and CEO of Mitibase Technologies, a global product startup company in knowledge graph and people intelligence. He has completed his PhD from the University of Minnesota and has more than 10 years of experience in building and delivering products and solutions using artificial intelligence and machine learning to global customers. We are glad to have you with us today, sir, and request you to share a few words of wisdom with our attendees.
Sir, you are on mute.
Okay, thank you. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, I would like to really thank the KJ Somaiya Institute for giving me this opportunity and inviting me. And the dignitaries here, Honorable VC Sir, Ida Chairperson Sir, Director Monica Ma'am, and all the distinguished the participants, faculties, right? First of all, I apologize, I couldn't come in the physical form, but being the physical conference, I guess, is okay. So really wanted to come and visit the campus. Being a Mumbaikar, because I'm born and educated in Mumbai, so it's always pleasure. Currently, I'm based out of Pune, but I'm basically born and educated in Mumbai, so wanted to come to visit the campus, but unfortunately couldn't come. Definitely would love to visit next time. So what I'm going to do is today, as is this conference with the theme technology inclusion, I'm going to share my experience, right? And I'll give more time on the Q&A, and I would love that please ask me more questions at the end of the my thoughts, so that I can share my experience. Of course, not being from the research background, even if I'm doing a PhD, but I'll share my thoughts from the business side of the story, how the technology has been shaping. And I'm going to do this in a three different form. The pre-COVID, nowadays, we can divide the time into three zones, right? The pre, during, and the post. So I'm going to share my experience in the three domain. So when I went to do my PhD in the US, 1 terabyte of hard drive was costing $2,000, and this is in the year of 2003. Right? Now imagine today that 1 terabyte hard drive is like 3,000 rupees, right? You can just buy it anywhere, right? So why I'm sharing this is, look at the way the cost of the technology, what was there 10, 15 years ago and now, right? So one way of advantage of technology is technology has become more and more cheaper and more democratized. That is point number one, right? Imagine the ways of 2003, and now I can just buy anything, right? So that's example number one. I'll give an example number two. In my early days, when I came back from PhD, started my own data science and AI machine learning consulting in Pune. So at that time, we were really wanted to help healthcare. So we wanted to build an algorithm which detect the diabetic retinopathy. So I'll give a very specific example. It's a very powerful way of the technology. Even Googles of the world have been working. So typically, many diabetic people, they lose their eyesight because of this condition called diabetic retinopathy. And one of the ways, one of the challenges retinologists have is they're hard to detect this issue early. So in the late 2013, late 2014, we wanted to build this algorithm because of being a data scientist. The challenge was, where will I store this lot of data? There was huge, the cost of the data. And then today we realize I can do everything in cloud. So one way of this technology inclusion is the cloud has changed the game altogether. The data which is expensive to store, the data which is difficult to compute, now it is democratized. Now it's easy to do it, right? Because of the technology's cloud. So cloud is definitely one of the key inclusion enabler we have nowadays, which hard to get, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even the researchers couldn't have that, right? So today the Googles and the AWS has changed the game. One, because it is now I can easy to store, easy to create, easy to access. So one is definitely cloud is one inclusion which I see in the business context, which has changed the game altogether, right? Let me give one more example as a real use case. So that you realize how powerful this the technology inclusion or the value of the technology is good, right? Recently, there are a lot of this fashion app has come up where you can just really upload any photo and they can really give you a similar examples, right? So people call it as a visual recommendation. Amazons, and there are a lot of products. You know, I can say I like this t-shirt and show me more t-shirts like this, right? So imagine these kind of scenario 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where I used to get a lot of data, right? Where will I store that? Where will I compute that? But again, this is yet another example compared to the diabetic retinopathy. These kind of example, right? Where now I can just get to the any cloud system and I can get this done really, really quick. So one is really a key enabler is the cloud, which currently what I really see as inclusion, right? Second is artificial intelligence. I myself have been doing for last 10 years, being data scientist, have helped many startups, Fortune 500 companies doing data science. Is one of the another cloud or the inclusion enabler where you can do whatever thing impossible or what is not possible 10 years ago, which you can do right now. So artificial intelligence, machine learning has also changed the way people have been doing business or research, you know, the pre-COVID or the during COVID, right? Let me give a third example why technology is important, right? Nowadays, there is one program which is popular across TV. Everybody loves it, and that's Shark Tank, right? Nowadays, this yet another program where all the young students, even the elder generation is keep watching the Shark Tank, right? Now, why Shark Tank is important? Not because I can see that, but the Shark Tank is one of the very, so I feel is one of the best example of the technology inclusion. Because a guy or a girl in the remote places of Andhra Pradesh or Manipur, right now she gets the visibility of her idea, her startup, her company in front of the entire global stage, right? And this is only possible because of this now the digital program. Now you might say, Satish, hey, TV is not new, right? I can do that because it is broadcasted in TV. But remember, guys, now the TV is not watched by on the TV devices, right? The majority of the TV is watched on the small smart devices, right? And that's the really powerful or the power of the technology. Now the Shark Tank is not viewed on the TV anymore. Shark Tank is viewed on the small device in the remote places of India, and that's the power of the technology where the ideas are really distributed. So I'm not excited about the Sony is the hosting the program. The ability of any person all over the world with the small device can see and understand, and the other side of the person who has the huge knowledge, he can actually spread across his knowledge to the rest of the world. That's the power of the inclusion, right? In right now in the entrepreneurship and in the technology space, right? Now, if you look at, let me give another slightly different example. If you have analyzed the budget of Indian market, right? The two distinct features you see. One is the digital currency. That's another power of the technology inclusion I see, right? Where because of the digital currency, there is a lot of access and reach is going to do that, which was not there 5 years, 10 years ago. And another thing which government of India has done is the online or the digital university. Right? They have created a massive infrastructure where Monica ma'am and the VC sir has also mentioned that in the education aspect, where during COVID, we have really realized the Zooms and the Microsoft team has changed the world of the face of the education in India, right? Because of the COVID, nobody can go to the school. But because of this, even the government's initiative of creating a huge digital university will also change. So these are the few examples of the digital innovations or the initiatives where you feel and I feel really that it can change the entire landscape, not only on the business side, but on the research side, on the education side. Right? So with this view, I will have a couple of last points before I really conclude, and I would love to keep the floor open more on the interaction, because all these things, you can also get it through internet and the Google. The couple of things I wanted to mention is in this where this is our key research area as a company, and we do left and right, right? In the phygital space. So today's conference is phygital. We have seen how education has been getting communicated or delivered using the phygital part or the digital part. The VC sir is stressing again and again that he's stressing that no, the physical part is important in education, right? But in the entire game, one aspect which is not really looked at very carefully, where we do this in and every out, is how do we build the community, right? So community is another extremely important part. And this is one of the most ignored part in the corporate world. And sorry to say, even it is, see, in the education field, I've seen. So why is important? Because networks and communities are key enablers. Because if I'm talking to someone at the very long period of time, if I don't have the camaraderie, there is a famous saying that we are connected, but we are not connected. So one important technology inclusion, which I feel people are ignored, is completely overlooked, is how do we build the community, whether as a institute, whether as an organization, whether it's as an NGO, whether it's a small startup. And today, why is important? Yes, everybody understands the value of the the community. But today, because of the technology, I have ability to build the digital community. I have ability to build the online community. I can get to be part of the community which is far, far, far away, which is based in the US, which is based in the London. But today, for example, alumni is the best example of how do you build the community, right? So today also, because of the technology inclusion part or the innovation part, I have ability, and not only me, everyone has ability to build the community and get the help of that. And you know what is the best example of that? So today, another example where India will be leaders, believe me or not. So I started my data science career in Pune in 2010, where people were fooling me around. When I was shouting on the roads of Pune, hey, you know, AI is important, machine learning is important in 2010, and nobody was listening to me, right? And today everyone knows the value of the data science. So one aspect which I feel is going to change the Indian, the business aspect as well as the research aspect is the community. But the biggest use case or the biggest value is the creator economy. Now today, why this community is important? Lot of people during the COVID and post-COVID, they're quitting their job and they're making money, making their livelihood is being a creator, being a YouTuber, being an online course maker, right? And for them, what do they need? They need a strong, healthy community. So community is a very, very important point. Digital community is still further important. If you analyze all the YouTubers, course curriculum, people are really leveraging, whether it's a monetary part of the story, whether connecting to their students, connect to their employee, because they're building a very strong community. We, as an internal company, we invest heavily, and we are the network scientists, we are community researchers, experts. So we know the value of it, and every aspect, being organizations, the municipality, the governments are creating community, creators are creating community, organizations are creating community. Institutions should also focus and build their community, right? Because they can focus more things during that community, because community is where the trust and the camaraderie is important. And in today's digital, physical, whatever word you call it, that's where the investment and the focus should, right? So with this, I'll just conclude my small thought. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And again, apologize being not been there physical, and really thankful for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, if I may, I just have one question. As you mentioned that the one problem which you tried solving was the regarding the diabetic retinopathy. What are the other aspects or other problems that you or Mitibase Technologies would like to address or are currently working on?
Sure. So today, India is one of the country where the ratio of retina expert to the population is extremely skewed. It's extremely difficult that you get a retina expert out of Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad. But it's very challenging. And traditional ophthalmologist is not really able to really find out this minor, difficult or very hard to detect diseases. So in that aspect, what do you do? How do you get, because this is, believe me or not, the diabetic blindness is really a big concern in Indian ecosystem today, right? There are many people in our, because every home has a diabetic patient, right? And you realize that a lot of people are losing their eyesight because of this disease. Unfortunately, because this technology is very limited, doctors are limited, we wanted to democratize that. The whole idea of the technology is, how can I democratize so that it goes to even the lower rung of the bottom of the pyramid, right? So the aspect of it is, how can I build a small tool or a software so that it can be deployed to the remote places in Chandrapur, right? Where a simple physician can really use that tool to at least find out, hey, there's something is going to go wrong, and just go to Mumbai, go to Pune, right? So that's the aspect of the story. And the diabetic retinopathy is not alone. I can give you 10 examples of the disease where the skewness of the, the patient and the doctor's availability in India, and where the AI and the machine learning and the technology is really helping. So aspect of this is how can we make this sort of a DIY tool so that we can democratize this for remote places in India, where at least the physician can at least have detect that early and guide the patient to the right place. So that was the whole idea.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Any other questions? I'll be happy to answer.
Yes, sir. So Surya has raised the hand. He will be
Sure.
asking.
Sure.
Sir, as you have mentioned that how community is the future of how we get better at a lot of skills. But the thing is that cryptocurrency in blockchain is entirely based on the factor that it is decentralization of finance, and community is aware of all the transactions happening between people. But government has to have a sense of control over it, which is why they said that you can't use cryptocurrency and you need to use our cryptocurrency, which is issued by RBI. So do you say that community with a little bit of oversight from government is the way to go in the future?
Very good question. But the answer is yes and no. See, community is important. It's very valuable, and it's not something which is new. Community has been when the humans are really started their journey many years ago, centuries ago. But the community has also limitations in terms of if the community has a repercussions of economic, if the community has a repercussion of health, if the community
Satish
is related
sir,
to,
Satish sir, just 1 minute. I need to just acknowledge presence of my chancellor. Just give me 1 minute.
Sure.
I just want him to wish all the best to our conference. He's in little hurry. I'm extremely sorry.
No, absolutely. My way.
I wish you all the very best. I'm sorry. Congratulations to you all and wishing you all the very best for this conference. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So the question, so answer to your question is yes and no. So community has also a responsibility. Everything in technology, one of the problem of the technology, if you don't use responsibility, the technology is really not a technology, right? Useful. So community, whenever is related to life and death, whenever is related to the regulatory and compliance aspect of it, whether related to finance, so some oversight is definitely needed. We can't have a community of people without completely oversight. And that's why, that's one part. And second is blockchain and the cryptocurrency not being an officially a legal tender will have their limitations. So I'm not saying the community is bad in that case, but because as we have to be in the realm of the in the compliance and the regulations, right? We can't just be so if it is not a regulated or approved legal tender, then we have to live with that, right? So but the idea is, but one aspect of the cryptocurrency grew because of the community, at least, right? Compared to 10 years ago when the Ethereum was a very small aspect of the blockchain and the crypto, where now look at the market. But it started with one couple of small 4 or 5 people. Now look at the community. So without a proper regulatory oversight, even the community may not be the help. That's the whole idea.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That answered my question.
Any other questions?
Any of the faculties have any question?
Sir, I have a question. Yeah, Kapish.
Yeah. So Satish, being a founder of such a great company, would like to know one thing. Though India is really doing well in technology and all, but we don't have much products or patents on our name. We are more into implementation, more focused into customization and all that. Why don't we have, if we are such a big talent in India, why don't we focus on products? Why don't we focus on patents into this area? It's something which is
absolutely. I mean, you asked my question, which is close to my heart. I came from PhD. I did my PhD from in Minneapolis. I came back from India to India in 2010. I wanted to start a product company in 2010. I said, let's do machine learning, data analytics. Data is the future. Now, the one constraint, I wouldn't say unfortunate, but one constraint what we have is not having the awareness of the startup and ecosystem. I started my entrepreneur journey right after my PhD. I don't have any formal experience. I have not worked in any corporate. Right? I came back from a PhD and I started my company. but unfortunately, the ecosystem was not there. So one definitely constraint we have, and of course, the legacy of the Infosys and the TCS of the world, where traditionally we have been looked at the services industry. So that's one. So even as I entrepreneur, I struggle a bit, but I started as a services company. So that was my first company. I sold my first company in 2018, and right now I'm building one of the biggest relationship intelligence platform. So as a product company, right? Because today I feel the ecosystem is there, which was not there 10 years ago. The awareness was not there. And Shark Tank is the best example I'm giving you, right? Believe me or not, people may comment, people may questions. There is whether they have a devil's advocate view of the Shark Tank. But one thing definitely Shark Tank has changed the way people look at entrepreneurship, the way people look at building products, the way people look at a different product. So one is having that ecosystem, right, which was not there. Second is the awareness. And third is, again, the close to my heart question is, now we really need to build the community. Why people love going to Silicon Valley? Why everybody wanted to start an office in Silicon Valley? Because there is a community there. People handhold you in terms of funding. People handhold you in terms of appreciating your ideas, or evangelizing your ideas, or trying your ideas. So there, unfortunately, we are very premature there. There are ecosystem, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, this is mentioned in the beginning. But the question is, how can I make this ecosystem? And one point definitely Corona has made is, because of Shark Tank, because of Corona, I can still be in my village and I can build something which is product, which is visible to the entire world. And people can try, accept, buy, purchase, get delivered, right? Monica ma'am says delivery, right? Monica ma'am give example of Zomato. Now I don't have to be in Pune to sell my product, right? I can be still in the remote places of Andhra Pradesh, and I can just have my e-commerce store, and I can send it to everybody. So one is, when more and more unicorns, India is now becoming more and more unicorns. Every year there are IPOs coming, right? So hopefully in the next 5-10 years, we don't have to ask this question again. But I feel the ecosystem, the community, and the awareness, these three aspects, we still have to work really, really more on that, so that we don't have to be a service-driven economy. It can be a product-driven economy.
Yeah, just to add to what you said, we do have one team participating in Shark Tank from Somaiya Riddle.
Absolutely, so, very nice. I congratulate them. And
youngsters participated in Shark Tank. Okay,
and correct. And believe me or not, because of the Shark Tank, they will get so much visibility, and the product and the team is still there, right? But that's the power of the technology, right?
Yeah, true. Thank you so much. Last question, Tushar. Last question.
Kapish, if you.
Yeah, sir. So, like you said that you have a great career in ANML and you have experience with ANML. I have one question: that can we generate imagination power in machines through AI and ML? And if we can, then we should we?
Well, it's yes. Again, the question is yes or no. So can we do? So definitely. Is today that technology is possible? Probably not, right? So the technology, the real value of the technology, what seems impossible today, it may be possible 5 years down the line, right? So the question is, can we? And what you call, it's called as generative AI. People can, so it can be self-generate music, self-generate, So imagination power, yes, today is definitely not possible. Future, yes, maybe possible. Can we do it? Again, I'll go back to the question of the earlier question. Within realm of regulation and the compliance and the oversight, we have to do that. Anything which doesn't have oversight, compliance, it will go out of our hand. So if it is not possible today, I'm pretty sure something definitely, if not 100% imaginative, but definitely research is going on there where we are going towards the generative AI, but everything has to be under the realm of, the regulation and the compliance. So that should be my the take on this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Satish. I'm really thankful to you for,
thank you very much.
Accepting our invite as well as delivering a inauguration, talk. Thank you so much. And one more thing, like our ACP is requesting you, once we start full-fledged, we would really want you to come to campus and deliver one talk to our students in a physical manner.
Absolutely.
Our, Center of Data Science.
Happy to. Yeah. And I would strongly encourage, I don't know, because I don't know if KJ Somaiya, the School of Management, if you have any entrepreneurship sale or not. If not, I would love to, talk to people who are, if it is there, I'm not sure right now. But if
No,
they would love to
we do
interact
have-
even with the budding entrepreneurs there.
We do have entrepreneurship cell, we call it e-cell, and we have a
Okay.
tie with NEN also. Okay, National Entrepreneurs Network and all. So
Sure,
we
sure,
do
sure,
have
sure.
we do have a connect with them, and
Sure.
e-cell is fairly working well, and we do have our own incubator in the campus called
Very
as Riddle.
nice.
Yeah,
Very
called as
nice. I
Riddle.
would love to visit.
So
I would
yeah,
love to visit
so
and
the
share my thoughts
entire
and experience.
network of angel investors and other things
Very
who
nice.
took the setup. We support young budding entrepreneurs, whosoever wants to make their career in entrepreneurship. So we do.
Sure, sure.
Ma'am, would you like to add something? Monica, ma'am, would you like to add something?
We have the riddle also. We have the riddle, and a lot of incubation happens there. So we would like you to be involved with the. We have a center for capital market study also, and there is a technology study also. I think fintech would be the future, and technology is getting everywhere now. So we would like you to come and discuss with us what we can do, together jointly.
Sure,
And it
sure,
would
sure.
be very good if we can have some research, and I think some patents and all coming out would be wonderful.
Sure, sure. I'll
Already,
happy to
some
share.
of our faculty do have patents. They have created some models for risk assessment. So similarly, we can also do something together.
Sure. So one quick idea. I know we are short of time, but one quick idea would be, I'll be happy to share once I can physically. How can we monetize some of the stuff which you have been doing, right? So one of the
Sure.
way is the one way people have is, yes, I have a patent. Yes, we have to do research. But from the business perspective, if I say if some company can acquire that small piece, or they can have the IP protect of that, right? So that the monetization, if happens, that would be really, really, the culmination
Yeah.
or the cherry on the top, right?
Definitely. So I just want to update you that we have a Bloomberg lab, 9 terminals. Then we have a media analytics lab.
Very
and
nice.
we are setting up a simulation lab and hackathons also. So
Hmm.
continuously hackathons are being conducted in association with IBM, General Mills and all. So I think these can all, be used for developing some new ideas and all that.
Right. Oh, I'm super excited. I'll be happy to visit and see those labs and the Bloomberg
Definitely.
terminals and everything. So,
Okay.
Hello.
yes.
Along with Chandan and Monica ma'am, I want to support one more point. As we are belongs to B school, so we have a more than 50% of our alumni are an entrepreneurs, and we have a cell, entrepreneur cell, and they support for our budding entrepreneurs, as well as we have a cell that Dr. Radha is heading this, and we organize a lot of events for our students as well as young pass out alumni.
Sure. So one small 2 cents from my side is, if we keep inviting companies from different cities like Pune. So for example, one example, I was not aware the depth of the entrepreneurship which KG Somaiya is doing, right? So if we can invite more people on the campus, the more visibility and the more things can definitely happen. It can be, I can hire someone, from KG Somaiya, for example. We can collaborate, we can have some JVs in terms of what can be done. So
Sure.
Perfect.
I think we can have some campus tours and all organized.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Entrepreneurs and all. I think
that's a great
we
idea.
can do that because we have a WhatsApp group also. Somaiya, what is that? What is SANE? Somaiya Network for Entrepreneurs. There is a WhatsApp group, and all our alumni who are entrepreneurs are all on that group. So I think we can have a campus tour where we can call all of you and see what are the facilities we have, what are we doing, and in what way we can engage, to be very meaningfully relevant to the industry.
Correct.
Because ultimately, we are a link between the industry and the, the student community. They also want to be relevant to the industry, and we should also be relevant to the industry.
Correct. So for example,
we can do.
Correct. So I'm on the advisory board of a lot of these schools. So one of the things I keep telling them, and they really leverage, is how can we really leverage a technology know-how what you have, which can leverage with, because sometimes a company is looking for something, and one of the researchers in KG Somaiya might have done it 6 months ago, right? But just because of the they don't know each other, or because of the non-visibility of each other, someone, I'm looking for some solution which you say the risk assessment model, right? Maybe some bank in India or US, someone may be looking for something like this, right? So this a connect is very, very important, and that's where the visibility. If more people like me know what you do, that would really, really have also more visibility, and also in back of my mind what has been there already there. So
okay, sure. I think Professor Jha, through your Center of Excellence, I think you can connect with them and maybe some meaningful projects can come out.
Dr. Satish, Professor Jha here.
Yes,
It was
Yes, sir.
wonderful. It was wonderful listening to you, but I'd like to take 1 minute of yours more. The unique thing about our institution is we do have a technology program as well as management programs. So we do have people who are excellent, our students who are excellent in not only various aspects of management, be it finance, market, operations, but we do have students learning data science. And we also have pure technological courses like MCA there. Also, we have evening part-time students who are experienced, 2 years minimum experience students are also coming. So we do have one which you're talking about, ecosystem. It was wonderful. Digital ecosystem is perhaps I think that's in my mind, maybe that could be the theme for our Center of Excellence over the next quarter. What I intend to tell you here is with so much of potential that we have internally, we could be definitely work together and in the field of consultancy or maybe knowledge sharing, maybe some kind of an MDPs and FDPs, we can collaborate and work together. So I'll be very happy if over the, things are definitely settling down. If we can over the next few weeks, maybe we can meet and we can discuss on some ways in which your experience and our pool of talent, if we both of us can meet together and draw some plan for the next quarter, which can help us in both the ways in fostering our Center of Data Excellence, which is my next theme, as well as your knowledge. And then we can discuss on today.
Sure. So one thing which currently a lot of these schools are inviting me is one is because I've recently sold a company. So as an entrepreneur, every college wanted to share the experience, how you started with, just came from US and how do you sell the company? So everybody would love to know what was the challenge, how do I sell company, how I started my new company. So that knowledge sharing is definitely question would love to share, what are my earnings, ups and downs. And
so nice. So maybe we'll make up one plan. I think we, along with 1 or 2 colleagues of mine, will visit you. Pune,
sure.
Yeah, Pune is not that far, so we can just come and meet you, or you're
sure.
always
I keep really struggling.
You're always welcome to Mumbai. Sir.
It would be really great if you come to campus because you will get to meet everyone here.
We have a wonderful campus.
I shuttle Mumbai because as I say, I'm born and brought up in Mumbai. I keep shuttling Mumbai. So whenever unfortunately today I couldn't come, but in the next month I keep coming to Mumbai. So maybe we can have a mutual
surely. That would be really great.
Sure.
That would be really great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys, and wish you all the best, everyone, for the paper presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Monica ma'am. So we now proceed with the discussion on our theme, Technology Inclusion, the Only Way Ahead. On our panel of speakers for today, we will be having Mr. Tushar Zade and Dr. Pradeep Pendse. So let me introduce Mr. Tushar Zade. He is the CIO and CDO at Aurigene Pharmaceuticals and has been awarded the 40 under 40 nationwide in the digital transformation category by Businessman. Heartiest congratulations on this feat, sir. Over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Aishwarya. Thanks everyone for having me. So after a warm session from Dr. Satish, I think it will be very difficult for me to create my own space, but I'll try to. Right. So like Aishwarya mentioned, I am the CIO and CDO of a company called Aurigene Pharmaceutical Services. Aurigene is a part of Dr. Reddy's group. However, Dr. Reddy's is a products company and Aurigene is a services company. Right.
Oh, so, thanks, Tushar. Thanks for accepting our invite. We are really glad to have you on, panel. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Chandan. So,
by the way, guys, just to tell about him, he is actually awardee of 40 under 40 award. So he's a CEO, youngest CEO of, sister concern of Reddy's. So Reddy's sister concern, he's the CDO and CEO of, sister concern. So welcome, Tushar. We are really proud of you.
Thank you.
By the way, he is my younger brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for all the love, affection. And with this institute, I guess this is the second time I'm speaking here. I think 3-4 years back, pre-COVID, I got a chance to meet the students and share a few insights from the industry. But that was a different scenario. This is a different scenario today. So of course, I am speaking after an entrepreneur, like I mentioned, but I'll try to make you guys understand that how a traditional business is
Just
now
one
transforming.
second, Tushar.
Yeah,
So
sure.
they want to join. They want to join from their own laptops. So we can sit with students here and.
No problem.
Thank you so
So
much. Yeah,
just let
Tushar,
me know
continue.
once we are good to start.
Sir, please continue. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are sure.
Yeah, please continue, sir.
Okay, sorry, your voice is a little feeble. All right, so I'll get started, guys. All right. So by the time others settle, maybe we'll try to just set the context and then we will go forward with the actual presentation. So I don't have too many slides. I just tried to make something yesterday night because of tremendous work what we are going through, given the year end is coming in March. So overall, from the perspective, what I will try to bring for all of you today is how a traditional company, right, a traditional manufacturing kind of a setup or a services kind of a setup, how they are transforming the way they are doing business with digital and technologies, whatever we have today around, right? So as Dr. Satish has briefly or maybe detailed spoke about the whole AI, ML, data analytics, and all this other perspective, I will try to cover the digital aspect as well. And I'll also try to touch upon how AI, ML is changing the industry at a healthcare level. All right. Okay, so I am going to share my screen. Let me know once you are able to see it. Okay, you must be able to see it now.
Yes, sir. Now it is.
All right. Okay. All right. So I just tried to put together some pages for all of us to understand what exactly we're talking about. So technology inclusion, the only way ahead. So like I was mentioning that how a traditional company is switching gears and it is moving towards the whole transformational journey of digital transformation and also using analytics to do better way of business, right? So I just wanted to start with this one page. Right? So this is the CEO of Novartis, Vas. So Vas is ex-McKinsey, if you might know him. He believes that he's trying to build a company, a medicines company, right? So it's a medicines company. You all know Novartis. But what he's trying to say is how the power of data science and digital technologies is making the company change the way it is today, right? So they're focusing on the data science and digital technologies for developing new medicines in the future, right? So the whole mindset, I just want to bring together here that the mindset has changed from a manufacturing or R&D space now towards the digital and data analytics space, right? Which is also a paradigm shift I must consider, given the whole nature of people traditionally thinking that sell more products, earn more. Right? So this has changed a lot in the game. I have some statistics also which we'll talk about. Now, largely, let's see. I mean, I'll take a step back and let's try to understand how a business works, the whole business of whatever we earn today. How does it work? There are three basic buckets in any business, whatever you say. First is to reach the customer. Now, the customer can be a new customer. He can be an existing customer. You might need to cross-sell or you might need to upsell, right? So how do you increase your reach? How do you increase the whole market share? That is the first bucket of any business. Second bucket is keeping the customer satisfied, right? Giving him best in class customer experience. How do we actually make sure that the customer who is once attached to us continues to stick to us? How can we make sure that he doesn't go to our competition? Right? The second bucket is all around the customer satisfaction. And the third bucket is around productivity. Once I have the customer, how do I service the customer better, right? Or how do I increase the productivity of my in-house people? Can I increase the productivity maybe by 5% by doing some digital initiative? Or can I do some process elimination, with some step elimination in the process, so that the process itself becomes faster and we are able to save productivity. So you take any company in the world, these are the three basic pillars, these are the three basic buckets you can divide that into. Okay, I'll repeat: increasing the market share by reaching as much as customers as you could. Once you have the customer, making him satisfied always, so that he gives you a repeat order. Finally, productivity. How do you service the customer better? And how do you actually make sure that your in-house, your people, your employees, their productivity is also taken care of? I have based on my experience for past decade or plus. So what I could see is there is around a 2x improvement in acquiring new customers. The moment you say digital, like digital marketing, you have a lot of ventures what you can get into. You can use LinkedIn, you can use Google Ads, you can do digital marketing through your website, you can do campaigns, a lot of stuff can be done. SEO, SMO, all those stuff. So my experience is, I have seen and I have done this in my organizations as well. There is a 2x increase in customer acquisition thanks to digital. Similarly, what I have seen is 15% improved net promoter score. Now, for those of you who don't understand NPS, the net promoter score is like how likely is the customer going to suggest or going to recommend you to the next customer. Right? So 15% increase. I have seen numbers from 40% NPS to 55% NPS. By the way, the best in class in B2B segment is around 70%, and in B2C, sorry, which is Apple. So 70% is a North Star for most of the companies, but 55-60% for a B2B organization is great. And I have done it myself. So 15% rise thanks to digital. On the productivity part, like I mentioned, how do I increase the productivity of my employees? By 20%. So 20% also is a number which is accumulated of various projects, what we do across the board. There are projects where we use some IoT devices, we get the data out, we do AI ML, and we try to do faster manufacturing or faster science, right? So in a way, that whole cycle time, if at all, suppose it used to take 10 hours, now it takes 8 hours. So I have few examples about these as well. Maybe in this 3 bucket, I'll try to give you an example of each of them and how digital is radically changing the way we are working today. I'll start with the last bucket, the productivity part. I think that will make you understand what exactly this 20% is all about. I'll give you an example of a document management system. Right? So pharmaceutical or healthcare, we are a community of people where we are audited heavily by FDA, by various authorities across the globe, and we need to give them documents saying that, hey, this particular molecule or this particular product, whichever I'm going to sell in your market, is meeting the right requirement. So there's something called GMP, good manufacturing practices. There's something called GXP, good X practices. Now X will include manufacturing, R&D, documentation, all the stuff. So for preparing a document, for reviewing it, for signing it as approved by, and finally giving it to a archival cell keeping it, retrieving it, and finally end of life. Right? So the entire cycle for a document to incubate to the scrapping stage, it used to take around 12 hours, or maybe to be very precise, 719 minutes. We have done the calculation. Now, with the whole DMS thing coming into picture, we are able to do that in 295 minutes. So you can imagine 716 to 295. There's a drastic change. So I am straight away saying that there's a 142% increase productivity. So the same person who was supposed to spend 12 hours on a document is now spending 5 hours. Right? So drastic change. So this is just one example I gave you. Right? Now, even for a customer side of the business. Now let's talk about marketing, the first bucket, reach customer, right? Market share. Now, marketing has always been an area where companies could have improved, and some of them who have done good have actually made good in the businesses as well. Now, in the marketing space itself, if you see today, if at all you don't have a good system in place, which will, so suppose just to give another example, there is news across the globe. There are a lot of news happening. Companies are getting acquired, companies are getting formed, some companies are getting demerged, some companies are shutting the shop, and all these things are happening, right? So how do I actually gather all this information together and present it to the marketing team saying that, hey, look, these are your probable leads who can convert into prospects and who can ultimately lead to a business acquisition. right? So the entire process, imagine someone sitting and browsing all through the websites and searching that, okay, who is the one who is looking for a molecule or for a product which my company is making, right? So of course, it's going to be a tedious job. So for solving that entire piece, the whole digital and analytics piece comes into play. This is where we solve the problem of the business, and this is where we bring as many customers as we could and try to sell them, cross-sell them, upsell them, right? By cross-sell, upsell, I hope you guys are also aware of, wherein we are trying to, okay, if at all there is some product what he is buying, we also try to pitch some another product which might be of interest for him, and he will also end up buying that, right? And also we have this, I mean, the whole marketing message, the product strategy is around the whole customer interactions, right? So all these customer interactions, the customer journeys are now digitized to a larger extent. So I give you example of productivity and the market share one. Now let's talk about the NPS, the Net Promoter Score. Now, customer satisfaction is also an important area for every organization. Maybe just imagine if Apple all of a sudden starts manufacturing a bad phone. Will you go back and buy the next iPhone? Maybe not, right? Because the customer isn't satisfied. Why will he go and buy another iPhone if at all it is not meeting his expectation? So whatever you have sold, the product quality is extremely important. The quality comes with the right systems in place, the right processes in place, the right interlocks in place, right? And also, how can you go back to the same customer and try to say that, hey, look, if you have an Apple iPhone, maybe you can go and buy our AirPods as well, or iPods as well, AirPods as well, sorry. So that you're actually trying to understand the whole customer journey, the customer life, and you're also able to sell the next product in your portfolio, right? So this is sometimes we call it as follow the customer. All right. So I gave you an example of all the three buckets. This is how the companies are now adopting digital, and this is how they are trying to change the way they are looking at the old traditional ways of doing business. But so I'm not able to see any hands up. In case you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. Otherwise, at the end, I'll give you like 5-10 minutes to ask any questions. Okay. So from a digital standpoint, so I made this slide yesterday, thinking that numbers will definitely will be there with you forever. So I call this page as digital came, digital saw, and digital conquered. So I was going through McKinsey's some of the pages. So I saw this that 80% of the customer interactions are going to be digital in nature in the future, right? So today, I will say around 40 to 45% of them are digital. Like a customer to a company is talking through a portal. He's talking to you from a chatbot. He is Googling you. He's Googling your products, right? In his browser, you can find those cookies, and then you can actually go and try to talk to the customer and try to make a lead for it, right? So 80% of the interactions in the future will be digital, which is also a big number, guys. 69% of the CEOs from manufacturing sector are considering upskill and reskill their manpower. Now imagine today for a big manufacturing space, there are people who are going on the shop floor and they are trying to manufacture some new products, right? Now imagine you're asking that same operator to get upskilled or reskilled to digital, or use the digital platform some way or the other. So 69% of the CEOs today believe so, which is also a huge number for an industry. 62% of the CEOs from FMCG and retail sector are considering investing in new techs. Now FMCG, you know, is quite fast market. And in that, now these new techs are actually creating their own space. And 62% of the people, of the CEOs today, have now reconsidered their business strategies. And now they are going ahead and investing in the new technologies. Last but not the least, another good number. So this is where I will draw parallel from Dr. Satish and all of you whom you spoke about the science part, the data science part. 72% of the companies in the world do not know what do they do with the data tsunami. Now it's an alarming figure, by the way. Okay, it's not something which will excite you, but of course you can understand the whole opportunity there lies in that 72%. Now we have been talking about whole digital transformation. How can we reach to the level where the bots will do the job for you, where the humans are not required, where the AI will try to imbibe the human emotion as well. There will be self-awareness, and also, of course, all of that is good. But then the data, whatever people are generating across the journey, like again, I'll give you one more example. Now, patients these days are not only monitored in hospital, they are also monitored at their home using wearables like a watch, right? They are monitored on the way to hospital, in the ambulance. They are monitored in the clinic. They are monitored on the way back home as well. So the monitoring of a patient itself has changed so drastically. Now you are generating data every second, every minute. What do you do with the data? That data needs to be used to draw actionable insights in the future. So I resonate with my CEO where he always says that don't just generate actionable insights. Make the systems capable of taking actions based on business rules, right? So based on the data, whatever you have generated so far for past few years, take that data and try to take actions against it using that data, right? And then if at all there are any exceptions, only for that matter, us humans should be coming and solving those exceptions. Rest, for every place, if there is a data-backed decision, the system should have the ability to take the decision and to do the action as well, rather than waiting for a human to take an action. Right? So 72% is a big number, guys, again. So because the space of data science is now exploding, people are now trying to reskill and trying to go towards the whole data analytics space, the data science piece. Of course, it is extremely important. But the underlying fact is your data, whatever you are generating throughout the process, needs to be clean. You cannot do any science with the bad data. Garbage in will be garbage out. Right? So the process setting up right is equally important. And then finally, using the data in the right space is also important. All right, so I'm going ahead next. Next, I'll talk about what companies are doing for establishing the whole digital roadmap for organizations, right? Now, most of the companies, around 80%, I was reading that around 80% of the companies in the country have actually considered digital transformation as a key lever for business growth. Right? So what does this digital transformation mean, and what are the roadmaps to transformation? So the roadmap is quite simple, and I again try to put it in three blocks so that you guys will understand. The first block is fixing the foundation. Now, fixing the foundation is nothing but making sure that whatever your base processes are right. Just to give an example, maybe again, if you are manufacturing of automobile, you are in manufacturing of automobiles as an industry. Just take an example, right? So getting the right cloud setup, getting the right infrastructure, getting the right information security, getting the right ERP systems at place, right? For your procurement, for your sales, for your manufacturing. So getting the basics right is called as fixing the foundation, which is the first step to digital transformation. Okay. Next is digitizing the code. Again, very interesting. So digitizing the code is nothing but where you are actually investing and building some code which will ultimately go and talk to your businesses in the future. Just to give an example. Now you are doing manufacturing at a site. Right? You have an ERP system which is working perfectly fine. But that ERP system will not have the details of how the manufacturing process works. Now, for that, there are specialized OEMs, specialized applications, which you need to get from the market, implement, customize it the way you want, and then run it. So that your manufacturing space, your manufacturing works the way you want it to work. You want yield to be higher. So how will you increase the yield? Is by digitizing the code. Now imagine a person or imagine an operator who used to write a big document saying that I was supposed to told so and so. I have done X, Y, and Z. However, this is the byproduct, this is the final product and everything. If he's writing that in a paper and the paper gets lost, you are nowhere, right? But if it is digitize the code and you have a system to actually capture this entire process in a system, right? So then in the future, you can use the same data to do analytics on top of it. And final journey, the final destination for all of us is to go to digital transformation. Now, like I mentioned, digital transformation is a state where most of the companies want to reach. Most of them, I would say, are on the way. Few of them have already reached there. Few of them, I think, are little behind. But few of the industries also have also crossed digital transformation and they have gone to disruption. There are many industries what we are seeing that there is a disruption happening. BFSI for that matter. I mean, maybe I'll just give you an example. This Development Bank of Singapore, DBS, they don't have a bank branch, like you know. They're a software company who runs. I mean, they hire data science engineers. They hire digital guys. They don't hire bankers. They don't hire the traditional cashiers, so called, right? So they have reached to a certain level where they don't need a branch. It's a branchless bank. So of course there are levels. Every company is making that attempt to go to this ladder from fix the foundation, digitize the core, and transform with digital. Transform with digital actually will show those numbers which are shown in the beginning. 2x reach a customer, 20% productivity rise, and all of that is possible once you reach the ultimate North Star of digital transformation. All right, so I'm going next to the architecture for the future. So this particular page excites me a lot because I took a lot of years, a lot of hard work to set this up in my organizations whichever I worked in. So architecture, as you know, is something how you will keep your systems, how you keep your data, and how you will use that system or data or the process in the future, right? So typically it starts with system of record. Now, system of record is where your ERP systems come into play. Your ERPs are there, your Microsoft stack is there, where your email systems and everything, which is nothing but wherever you are punching the data, wherever you are recording an experiment, wherever you're recording a manufacturing yield, that is a record, system of record. On top of that, you create something called system of differentiation. Now, differentiation is something which you have, but your competition doesn't have. So you are creating a differentiator and which will actually give you an edge over the competition. So in a way, just to give you that same example, the same parlance of what exactly I told you for manufacturing. So again, in the manufacturing space, like I mentioned, there was a document they used to write. The document then finally got digitized in the system, and the system is then getting utilized to do science, data science, and all that. So the system of differentiation are those systems where you have a specific process detailed in a system. Your competition may or may not have. There are companies, there are OEMs who will give you the system. You can just buy it and install, or otherwise you can build it on your own. Final one is something called a system of innovation. Now, this is best in class, guys. So no one in your space has this particular system which you have built. Just to give you one example, the example where I told you about the marketing folks, right? The marketing folks, they used to go to websites and try to understand what exactly is happening, what news are, what is happening in the world and everything. Now, me bringing that everything together, putting onto a data lake and trying to do analytics on top of it is a system of innovation, right? No one has done it in the past, at least in this space where I'm working right now, right? So that is something which will create an innovation and give me an edge. I'll be able to stay ahead of the curve. This is on the digital side. Now let's understand on the data side of it. Now again, extremely important, system of record, like I already spoke about. On top of that, we build something called a system of intelligence. And on top of that, we create something called system of engagement. Now let's understand this particular architecture on the right hand side. So system of engagement is nothing but where your customers are getting engagement. Right? Now the customer can be both internal and external. I'll take an example of an external customer first, and then I'll go internal. Now, external customers, like for example, you use Swiggy, you use Zomato, you use Food Panda and all those apps. Those apps are nothing but a platform to engage. The companies are getting engaged with you through the system of engagement as the app, right? System of intelligence is showing you what you want to see. You might not notice, but maybe if you go to Chennai and you use the same app, your preferences or the menu what you see will be quite different than a person sitting in Delhi will see. Right? Why? Because the system of intelligence is actually intelligently changing the way you are seeing the menu, and it is engaging you on their platform, right? So that you ultimately end up buying something from them, or you end up buying something from the upsell and the cross-sell stream. Sorry, was there a question for me? I heard someone.
Yeah, extremely sorry.
Sure.
No question, but just would like to understand one thing. Though when you say innovation and all, are really companies investing in it, and how the failures have been tackled there?
Yeah, I think good question. So I'll tell you how we operate. Okay, so how my organization operates and how I am governing here. So whenever we take a budget, Dr. Chandan, so the whole budget piece comes to us as a kitty. Right? And out of that kitty, we divide that budget into three parts. One part is where keeping the lights on, all our licenses, minimum cost, manpower cost, I put it in that bucket. I cannot compromise on that. Second bucket is doing something around the differentiation part. Right? Now, this particular bucket is where we try to invest and we use adjacencies. Like if you have a manufacturing execution system, explore the adjacencies and try to get more out of the implemented system. And the third bucket is something we call it as a risk bucket. Right? And that particular bucket is something you might end up inventing something completely new, which the industry doesn't have, or you might end up failing. But as an organization, I think the mindset has been changing over the past few years, Dr. Chandan. Earlier, which was not possible. If I would have failed, I would have lost my job. But nowadays, failures are also celebrated. And the learnings from that failure are used to do POCs for the future. We keep on doing, we keep on innovating, and we keep on going back the same, we close the loop back with the failures. That's always there.
Correct. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one question, one more.
Sure.
Hi, Tushar, Professor Jai. Just point of the, just thought of making this point. Sure. Normally, when we look at technology, innovations and other things, the so-called non-practitioners of technology always feel that the technology is invading them. So is there any way in which we can address this issue, invasion versus innovation? Normally, that's the point which I always have in my mind. So is technology invading into business, or is technology really driving innovations into business?
Yeah,
I want to hear it from a young entrepreneur like you.
Yeah, so I was an entrepreneur, but then I couldn't complete the entrepreneurship, so hence I moved.
But you are an entrepreneur. You are an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. So what happens is, I mean, of course, it's a valid question, and many of the solutions what we implement today anywhere, there is always a question that will this eat my job? And so people are hesitant. They don't like to share what they do today, and because they know a robot will come and replace them some way or the other. Like even a small example, we have this RPA, robotic process automation. Now RPA is actually to replace a human where there is no intelligence required, from a human intelligence required, right? So basically a mundane job, looking at X, looking at Y, matching it, yes, go ahead, no, throw it in the bin, something like that, right? So there was hesitance when we tried to automate some of the processes here, that people were little thinking that will this eat away my job? But then what we as an organization have actually taken up call that wherever such opportunity exists, we are actually freeing up that person's bandwidth and making him use in some process where he's actually going to be productive rather than doing some mundane stuff. And we are actually incentivizing them as well. That, hey, look, you were doing a boring job so far, let the bot do it. And your job will now be taken care by, you can do some other job, which is more productive in nature, and how you can actually grow the business in a way. So that mindset, again, I would say it's a change management philosophy. The coaching required to be done, guidance required to be done. But of course, people slowly and steadily have understood the importance. I would say it is not invading now, it is actually enabling business and enabling it to a way that people are actually creating new lines of businesses, where we are actually hiring more people or moving the existing manpower to the new stream of line of businesses.
Can you add something from your earlier role where you were business excellence head in Red Days? So can you tell some specific where the change was drastic and its impact was also very high?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'll take one example. Now again, it's a very interesting example in our R&D space. Okay, I'll not be able to give you the whole details of it because otherwise, I mean, it's a public platform. I'll not be able to speak into it.
Just a glimpse.
Yeah, I'll give you a glimpse of it. Now how a scientist works is he gets a plate. In that plate, I mean, this is a traditional way of working, I'm telling you, right? So he gets a plate where a molecule is placed, where the chemical structure is placed, right? And he uses his microscope and he tries to read that plate and he has to count the shapes, the different shapes. Okay, now in the science world, it has its own importance. You might say that, what is this here? Ye kuch kaam hota hai. But of course, there is some importance to it. They count the number of cylinders, they count the number of circles, they count the number of squares, right? And they write it, they make a note of it. Now that plate has minimum at least 150 to 200 such just cylinders. Now 150 to 200 just squares. So total, I'm talking about 1,000 plus shapes, right? So 1,000 plus shapes, a scientist looking into it and spending a day, minimum a day, and then writing it out and saying that, okay, this is how much I found. And again, it always has an error. Now imagine you just click a photograph of it, and then you use image recognition to understand how many count of cylinders there were. So now that one day job has now been reduced to 1 minute. That is a drastic change what we are seeing. Now scientists might be thinking that, okay, it is invading my space. I was supposed to do this. But now the same scientist is able to do something productive, and he's not able to spend, and he doesn't need to spend one day just to count the number of cylinders, right? So this is the way we are changing changing the game in a way, right? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. So yeah, so next slide is all about how a CIO operates and how a CEO operates. Okay, now there are these two parlances. I mean, I'll just try to make you understand what a CEO and what a CIO does. So CEO, as you know, is a chief executive officer. He is the highest authority in a company to take decisions, right? CIO, on the other hand, someone like me, is a chief information officer. CDO is someone like chief digital officer. Now, information and digital are these two, like I was mentioning, these two key pillars for the future. So these days, the discussions in the boardroom, I mean, first of all, the CIOs have got a place to sit in the board meeting. Now the CIOs are no more considered as a support function. CIOs are considered as business enablers, and they are also considered as business leaders. I join the business review meetings, I join the board meetings, and I contribute from my side that, hey, look, with digital, I can support you, I can get you more business. With some kind of a data science or data analytics, I'll be able to increase your productivity by 20%, something like that. So a CIO has now even changed hat. So a CIO is no more a chief information officer, he's more of a chief innovation officer as well, wherein he's constantly trying to do innovations, constantly trying to do POCs. Some might fail, some might pass, but whatever are successful are actually contributing to the way the businesses work today, right? So CIOs are now thinking like CEOs. Now, if I am the CEO of a company, I will always think that how can I increase the revenue of my company? How can I increase the top line? Always. Now, all these decisions or all these discussions, a CEO involves a CIO. They are now taking a joint call that how a digital kind of a industry or an industry who is now inclined towards digital is going to grow. So the CIOs are going to be the future of CEOs is what I wanted to leave all of you with a message, because technology is going to be so much powerful in the future that all of us are today already we are transformed ourselves, but also the businesses are pushing all of us to getting transformed towards digital. Hence, the CIOs today must think like CEOs. Okay, so I have tried to put together a page which will show you about the new technologies and the trends which we are seeing in the future business growth. Again, few of them I will have some use cases which I can share with you. Few of them I will not be able to, but whatever I know, I'll definitely try my best to explain and how exactly this particular pillar is changing. So from a digital standpoint, there is something called digital twin, which is a technology in the future, which will be used across. Now, a digital twin is nothing but you are replicating something physical into a digital form. Digital twin is not a single technology, it's a set of technologies. You will simulate that same thing in a digital twin, and then you will actually implement it. Just to give you a very good example of this, and I love this example always whenever I go and speak, I tell this example. You remember Iron Man, right? Iron Man used to have that, he will slide it and then he'll create a big molecule, he'll do like this and everything will be zoomed in. He'll create a glove first in a digital way and finally it will get 3D printed and all, right? So that is called as digital twin, which will be the future. Again, the use case for digital twin can be within drug discovery. Whenever we are inventing a new drug, you can actually simulate it and then finally use it in the digital, in the actual world. Next is AI, ML, DL. Dr. Satish spoke about it. I will not touch too much detail into it. But to me, AI has four levels. There are four types of AIs. Okay, I will not touch too much into ML and DL. But let's talk about AI first, and that itself is quite fascinating. AI has four types. One is something called as reactive machines. Now, reactive machines are something where a board game, you play a board game with a computer. That's a reactive machine. Then next is something called limited memory. Now, limited memory is somewhere where you are doing a chatbot, or you are using or you are doing the self-driven cars and all. Those come under this. Third is theory of mind. Theory of mind. So the theory of mind is nothing but where the human emotions are imbibed in the machines itself. And finally, something called as self-awareness, which I call it as Terminator. So this is where a Terminator will stand and he will take on his own decisions, and he'll try to, I don't know whether invade or not, but yes, of course, that is a self-awareness machines. First two, which is nothing but the reactive machines and limited memory, are already there, and we all are seeing them. Later two, the theory of mind and also the self-awareness are still technologically not feasible as of now. Dr. Satish might have already touched upon it. I'll not go too deep into it. But of course, technologically possible, but in general, in today's world, not yet done. That is the whole premise of all the four levels of AI. ML also, there are three levels. DL, you know, is deep learning. So there are multiple use cases of AI, ML, and DL. Again, to give you an example, AI, like I gave you four types, right? In healthcare space, I can use the data of a patient and I can predict that when heart attack can actually hit a person, what time and what age and how prone he is to face an heart attack. So all this AI ML will actually help us to do better healthcare management in the future. RPA, I spoke about it briefly. RPA is robotic process automation, where we replace the human and by a bot, and just intelligence, whatever human had, at least the basic one, the mundane stuff, can be taken care by RPA. There are multiple examples around it. AR, VR, MR, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. Good use cases. Sometimes in learnings. Now, whenever we are having a new scientist on board or a new operator on board, rather than he going and operating the machine directly, we would prefer him to actually use the mixed reality tool and first simulate it, learn it, and then actually go and do it on the machine. IoT, I spoke about it again briefly. We are having wearables in machines in the real realm as well. I think there are a lot of places where we use IoT sensors. Data is getting accumulated in data lake, and we are doing a lot of science on it. Alternate manufacturing, 3D printing. Again, an interesting subject. Of course, 3D printing is going to be the future. This is where most of our future houses might come up through, or this is where your future medicines can come up as well. So again, a very fascinating area. Blockchain, I think there was a question around blockchain and cryptocurrency. So Dr. Satish has touched upon it. But again, a very, very interesting area again, where you can try to build up your future, your career as well in blockchain kind of a technology as well. Again, various use cases available in banking sector, in a lot of sectors as such. Finally, metaverse. Now, metaverse is also I believe is going to be a future, because social media's next level is going to be metaverse. I know I see kids today, they are so fascinated with these Insta reels and those small short videos. I always prefer that rather than you spending time on Instagram, just going through the reels, why don't you go to YouTube and search for a TED Talk and understand and learn, or ask a question how to YouTube, that how do I play badminton? Basic question, but at least it will show you that this is the way you should hold the racket. This is the way you should hit. Many of us are, I mean, many of the kids today are actually spending time in the digital apps like Insta Reels and all. I think it's time for us to make a cautious choice and move out of it. But metaverse is going to be the future. So I think investing in that is also going to be a good investment, I would suggest. So these are the new technologies of the future and for the business growth as well. So out of that, I think most of them I have personally worked upon. Metaverse and blockchain, I have not worked upon. So I don't have too many examples around that. But of course, that is going to be the future. And as young entrepreneurs in the room, and even people who will become next Tushar, I think it's important for you guys to understand these 8 technologies, and also try to improve upon and work upon your own skills to come to the industry. All right, so I think this is the last page I have, and after that I'll open the floor for questions. So I picked up from Ross, MIT Sloan's, one of the professor. Clearly the thing that's transforming is not the technology. The technology is transforming you. So the way you are operating today, the technology is transforming you, and you might even not come to know the way you are getting transformed. But yes, this is coming and this is on your way. It's just the matter of you imbibing it. Yeah, that's my time. So my name is Tushar. I'm open for questions.
Thank you so much for the session, sir. If we have any questions, please raise your hand and ask them. Yeah, Tushar, you can ask.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, first of all, for this session. So I just had two questions regarding the presentation which you showed. First was regarding the NPS scores, which you showed that there was around 15 or 20% of increase. What exactly were the factors which you think can pinpoint to the rise? Like in my experience, what I could see regarding a product was maybe the after sales services and maybe the product being that good. So were these two the only factors, or was there something else as well? And the second question would be, you also hinted upon the DBS bank not having any physical branches and operating all online. So what is your stance on the neobanks that are opening in India as well?
So I couldn't follow the second question. Maybe I'll take the first one and then we'll come back to your second question.
Sure,
so
sir.
for the NPS one, clearly I think what happened to Shah there was that, see, of course, the product getting faulty definitely is a place where you'll get a wrong, is bad NPS. But another thing is also, so I always consider that there is no industry where service parlance is not applied. Okay. Now, even if you're trying to sell a product, there is a service associated to it, which most of the time is a problem. Just to give an example, if you buy a car from a maybe a BMW you're buying, right? And after the sales are happening, I know you're on your own, and then there are some problems, and then finally you end up having some issue, and the service what you get was not up to the mark. You obviously will not recommend BMW next time. You will say that, okay, better to go for Merc rather than going for BMW. Same way, even the person who is actually selling the service to you, selling the product to you, is also doing a service. Sometimes I have seen in my experience that even the sales guys, the way they operate, or the way they behave in front of the client, they also bring down our NPS to a larger extent, which is hidden, by the way. So the soft skill part of it is also an important factor to affect your NPS. And beyond all this, even the digital aspect of it, I mean, many times what we felt was customers are comfortable talking to a chatbot than a sales guy. So imagine a customer sitting in US, and I am trying to get his time to make sure that, hey, please, sir, look at our product. We are having XYZ. You can buy this, you can do this, and all that. So instead of that, if I'm a customer, I am talking to a chatbot, or I am having a place where I have the visibility of what the product is all about. And of course, based on system of intelligence, the company is showing me what I want to see. Right? I'm not seeing everything. I'm just seeing what I want to see. That also increases my NPS, because now for me, it's easy, right? I don't have to look for 4 things. I just need to look at one place. I get my answer, and I will rate, okay, now BMW is the best car in the world. I'll rate and I'll give a good NPS to BMW. These are a few places I think to share. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. And the second question was, sir, regarding the fact which you put up, like the DBS bank not having any physical offices, it's all operating online. So, what is your stance on the neo banks that are opening in India, where with the all going ahead with the digitization and everyone switching to UPI payments and all?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think UPI is a big success for Indians. I mean, I know my friends in US, Germany, and Europe. They always get fascinated that even a fruit seller in India has a QR code which you can scan and you can pay, which was not possible earlier. I mean, India was considered as a place, as a land of snake charmers, and now our same snake charmer has a QR code. You look at the snake, you look at the show, and you pay through a QR code, which was not possible earlier, right? And now our snake charmers are using the same mouse and making the Western world dance, right? So surely, I think the future is digital. DBS I think, has taken that stance of not having a branch. Similarly, I think Paytm Bank, many banks as such, which though look very small because their space are quite digital, they are not physically there. But I remember, I think 2-3 years back, I know the CEO of the DBS Bank in India, so Mohit. So I spoke to Mohit, I think 3 years back. He was mentioning that not many people knew DBS. That time, Sachin Tendulkar was their ambassador. So they tried to do that marketing effort to make people aware, because it's a Singapore bank, right? It was quite new because we Indians are used to go to a bank, standing in a queue, getting our check cleared, getting the money out, and all those things used to happen. But with this particular DBS kind of a way, your KYC is done online, your payments are online, nothing needs to be done. So I think many new banks are now gearing up to take that leap. So I think banks are now realizing that the staff cost, whatever they will save, even the space cost, even the electricity cost, lot of transactional costs, whatever are coming in, all that will be saved. And the same money they'll invest in doing better data science. So definitely banks are realizing it. New age banks are coming up, going to be digital, surely.
Thank you so much, sir.
Last question from my side. So being
Sure.
a young entrepreneur, what message you will give to this this budding MBA, that what should they concentrate in these 2 years of their pursuing their degree, they should concentrate on, so that they can make a really flourish career?
Yeah, sure. So I have two answers to it. One is a philosophical answer and one is a tech answer. So I'll try to give you both perspective, Dr. Chandan, and I know we are running short of time, so I'll not take too much time. From business standpoint, I think first of all, guys, you guys are coming from one of the best B schools in the country. So big congratulations to all of you. I mean, all the corporates will have their doors open to welcome you. But I would just want to give a word of caution to all of you that life is very different beyond the university door. Right? So as soon as you step into the corporate, there will be a lot of stuff which will be thrown at you. But then the technology piece, which will be, I mean, think from a process standpoint, right? And whenever you are coming into a corporate world, now there will be a lot of places or a lot of times where you will be asked to perform something which you have never done in the past. But I think never say no. It's a very, very good attitude to have when you are coming in the industry. But for these 2 years, whatever you have today, right? I think these 2 years we should invest in learning new tech. I think I have shown you those eight pages, right? So if you focus on those 8 pillars, pick up any one or two, try to learn, try to understand as much as possible. And then finally, with that, definitely you will see use cases when you come to the corporate world. And once you are in corporate world, those same use cases will help you to achieve whatever you are going to achieve in the future. Right? And from a philosophical standpoint, Dr. Chandan, like I was mentioning, I think I follow this concept of D, H, and A. D is all about dream. So dream with open eyes, dream to become big, always dream to be the top of the ladder. Don't dream of becoming just a manager. Dream of becoming the CEO of the company. H is nothing but hustle. Hustle for it. There are no free lunches in life. You have to struggle. You have to make sure that you pick up your boxes at your own. No one is going to help you. Hustle for it. Finally, A is for achieve. Achieve. Thank the people who have been dreaming with you. Thank the people who have been hustling with you. And after achievement, dream again. So that DHA principle, I have always followed. I kept on dreaming with open eyes. And I think whatever small bit I am able to achieve so far is all thanks to those dream and those hustles, whatever I've gone through. So DHA for you guys.
Thank you so much, Tushar. It was really wonderful. I still remember your first dream that I would want a car with door opens vertically.
Absolutely.
Right, that was your first dream, if I'm not wrong.
Absolutely. Soon going to be true as well.
Thank you so much, Tushar. It was really wonderful hosting you in the conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah. Prosija, would you like to welcome Professor Pradeep?
Yeah. Thank you, Tushar, for a wonderful morning session. It was wonderful listening to you. We have a second. We have a. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Pendse, sir. Professor Jai here.
Good morning.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, and sir, welcome once again to the Institute. I'm glad that I can see you, though digitally. We would have loved to have you in campus. Every time you come to campus, it's always a wonderful feeling that I personally get and the Institute in general get. For the benefit of the students, Dr. Pendse is the Board of Studies member with us, and I think for the decade plus association with him, he has been always there with us whenever we want to bring in any change into the curriculum or bring in, think about technology and how do we include into this curriculum. I've been always approaching Sir, and to our, I can say, he has never said no so far. I understand that he has a very busy schedule, and I know, sir, because of those accreditation and regulatory authorities, how difficult it becomes to take a time out. We have one such visit coming up in coming Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as well. So, but then thank you so much, sir, for taking time out and agreeing to present your plenary address for us. I will give it hand over the mic back to our student, compare the Master of Ceremonies, so that they can take it forward the discussions onto it. Sir, just for your information, for the after 2 years of COVID, we are first time organizing this event. We call it as a phygital mode, though the very common name is hybrid. But some of us are sitting in this room and trying to get the feel of it, whereas quite a lot of students are connected online, and some of the faculties too are there, including participants of this conference. So over to you, Aishwarya and Nitash.
Hopefully some students are on campus as well, right?
Yes, I think what I was reading in the newspaper today is they have made it for the 12th standard, up to 12th standard students compulsory to get into it. So ours is a PG batch, so I'm expecting them to be there. And I've got a controller of examiners sitting next to me saying that, okay, sir, next examination is going to be offline. So that's very great. Okay. So thank you so much, sir. Thanks. Over to you, Aishwarya.
Thank you, sir. So we would like to welcome Dr. Pradeep Pendse, sir. He is the CTO and the director in charge of University Operations at V School, Mumbai. With more than 30 years of experience, he has donned the hat of an IT entrepreneur, CIO, IT consultant, teacher, trainer, and has been a mentor to startups. We are very glad to have you, sir, with us today. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Jha and Dr. Chandan and all the team, faculty team. I think it's always a pleasure, like Dr. Jha said, to meet all of you there in Somaiya. And we've not had a chance for some time now, though online we've interacted. So, yeah, I think I almost forgot to smile, because of this ongoing audit that is. So this is a welcome relief for me to come and speak here. So though the auditors are on the prowl outside, so what I will do is I'll talk on the topic given, which is to do with technology adoption and some perspectives. So this is what I'm going to give you is a set of lenses which you can use, and there are some traditional ones, there are new ones, and then my own thoughts to add to it. I hope you're seeing the screen now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's the topic and me. So I come from a background of technology, design thinking, analytics, all of that rolled into one. And my own experiences of managing IT projects, as well as being on the CIO side of it. You heard Tushar earlier talk about the CIO, CDO roles, and we have experienced some of that. So one very conventional, I'm just showing very discrete ideas, and then we'll try and link them up together through a Q&A. So there's a very well-known model. Those who are from the academic world would know about it. There's a model called technology acceptance model. And if you see the key points there of when I use a piece of technology, I use it based on my perception about how useful it is going to be for me, and how easy it is going to be easy to use will it be. So today, I think customer experience, user experience, these are subjects which are coming up in a big way, and we need to understand them. So, my intention to use could be a need. For example, I want to withdraw cash. So I don't have a choice but to use whatever dirty solution is there, but I want to withdraw my cash. But if I incidentally had a bank which had a much better interface, which allows me to do a much easier job of withdrawal, I'll obviously favor that. So there is a mix of both. There's a need, but there is also the ease of use part of it. So that's what essentially, and there are a lot of external factors which also impact the context of the person. For example, if there's a villager who probably has a language challenge, then will he be able to use an interface which is essentially an English-based interface? So, you heard Tushar talk about UPI and the success of UPI. I think it's made it so easy for people to use that leads to success. So keep this one framework in mind. The other is about e-business in general and the transformation journey many companies have had. These are some of the stages that most companies go through, right from just having a website and a web presence to doing a full-fledged transformation. And everybody goes through the journey. The stages could vary, the number of stages that you go through, etc., and the time it takes you to actually reach that stage of mature transformation. But a lot of companies are attempting it. So this is the other framework. The third framework to remember is design thinking and user-centered design. The whole approach today is not so much about an organizational wanting to transform from inside out, but it is actually an outside-in approach to wanting to transform. What is it that my stakeholder needs? What does he value? And you have to actually discover what he values, because he himself may not be able to articulate what he values. And from there, trying to find out his touch points and then do a user journey map. What you're seeing on the diagram is actually a user journey map of some kind, and trying to figure out a solution which will solve a core problem for that person, for that persona. And if you hit the right solution, then obviously the adoption of that will take off, provided, of course, the second part of design thinking, which talks about also designing the ecosystem necessary for success. And one simple example of that is electric vehicles, for example, today. The whole idea of electric vehicles, see, if I'm just an innovator for fun, if I'm buying an electric vehicle, I will buy it at any time that I wish to, as long as I have the money to pay for it. Because utility is not important to me. It's just the fun and the passion of buying an electric vehicle which is important. But if I am a regular buyer, a mass customer, I have a specific use case for it. So I live in Thane, I drive down to my office in Lower Parel. I have a challenge in parking my car, first of all. And then on top of it, if there's a charging issue, where do I charge the car? So I have so many issues to resolve before I decide to buy that electric vehicle. So it's not enough to design a good solution or a product, but it's also important to create the context necessary for the product to succeed. So design thinking is also about creating that context. So do you have that ecosystem necessary for the EV to succeed at a mass scale? And you need to therefore invest or maybe partner with somebody who can be willing to invest in building that infrastructure. Look at Apple, for example. Many success stories of Apple products is because they also created the context for success, right? So you have the iTunes, or you have the Apple, all the apps that are available to you, etc., third-party apps as well, which makes it much more easy for people to adopt. So keep design thinking as a user-focused approach now, and I think that's something which has become a norm for people to drive adoption of products. In fact, drive creation of products in the first place. The other point that I wanted to make is about platform-based businesses and the whole digital concept today. Basically, it is about traditional businesses and pure play businesses. So there are a set of traditional businesses which are now trying to become digital. And there are existing pure plays like the Googles of the world, etc., who are born digital. So they have different kind of challenges. But to my mind, they are both the same, because eventually a conventional business like an Aditya Birla Group or whatever, they will become pure play businesses, or at least have one leg in the digital play and the other, which is the physical, because ultimately they have to sell physical goods and commodities and things like that. But the characteristics will therefore tend to overlap between the two. So just keep in mind that irrespective of who you are, I think the issues are more or less the same. And this, to my mind, is the characteristics of digital enterprise. And I think many of these points were touched upon by Tushar earlier in his excellent talk. And I would only say that you need to imbibe many of these in your business to really call yourself digital. And one of the most important one among them is digital first. I mean, when you are doing a transformation, I think the belief that you want to do everything digital is something which should come from within. And you should always ask yourself that unless I'm convinced that I can't do it digitally, then only I will do it manually. It's only when you force yourself to think like that, then you will find solutions which are tech. So there are technologies like we heard digital twins, for example. So you will ask yourself a question, can I not use that? And what I am thinking, or a 3D printer, for example. So I am tempted to do the physical manufacturing, but then I think that there is a 3D printer. Can I use a 3D printer to give a digital output? So it's always possible. Until you pressurize yourself to think digitally, it will not happen. So some of these are also attitudes in a sense, which you need to culturally drive in your organization. So this is the other, should I say, lens which I thought I will give you. So digital thinking, as the word now goes, like you have design thinking, you have digital thinking. So once you imbibe that, I think that's the other lens that you need to keep in mind. So some of the challenges of a digital organization and a virtual organization are, there's a clutter out there in the internet, and your challenge is how will I be noticed in that clutter? It's like being in a shopping mall, a small shop at the one corner of the shopping mall, and no visitor comes there. So how do you make yourself noticed? And in the internet world, it's even more complex. So I think one set of activities, and you are familiar with it, of course, in digital marketing and all of that. How do you make yourself noticed is one big challenge. The other one is the platform, and is it going to be limited to a set of people, or are you going to throw open the platform which allows people to access it? So you'll have a lot of these open source and so many other models where you could access it very freely. So that's a strategy decision, but it does affect adoption. So many a time you have a lot of premium models, etc., essentially created to drive adoption. So get a taste of it and then start charging. But the difficulty in all of this is at what point do I charge? Because once you start charging a customer for something, he will always look for another free site which does not charge, and you don't want people to migrate. So unless you have a compelling value proposition for the person, you will not be able to retain the customer. But having said that, I think a lot of companies have succeeded in charging. So for example, you have a Zoom which allows you a free account, and then there's also a paid account. But a lot of professionals do today buy a free account as well, right? So which is why Zoom survives. So you need to not only create awareness through the free account, but also create a possibility for generating revenues and tying up customers with yourself through a compelling business case for them. Winner takes it all is the other interesting phenomena in the platform-based world, not just digital, but any platform-based world. And your challenge is, if I create something, how can I go viral so that the adoption is rapid and so pervasive that others can't compete with me. So you gain the maximum market share as a result of it. And even in traditional businesses, for example, in the traditional IT as well, say Microsoft, whoever the operating system, Oracle in databases, they were always very dominant players, right? It's only when an open source platform comes up like a Linux, then it challenges a Microsoft, etc. But the point is that Microsoft does become almost like a 90% dominant, operating system, and becomes it's like almost winner takes it all. So any B2B customer would prefer a Microsoft platform because of the stability, because of the company, technology company backing it, and so on and so forth. So the challenge with Linux initially was that the support mechanism did not exist. The trust in a product like that did not exist. So Microsoft dominated. Then eventually, of course, that domination was broken. Anything you do today has to have a global eye. So one of the perspectives to keep in mind is you're not necessarily only designing something for the local market, but create to scale. So it's a frugal innovation. You create it in India, but it certainly has to create an impact all over the world, because the needs more or less in the digital world remain the same across, subject to certain cultural and local requirements. So some localization may be required. I'm not saying it doesn't. And many platform businesses, including the physical companies like McDonald's, for example, has realized that the burger in India has to have some masala in it. So they have also made changes to their products, and it's not the same that it's available worldwide, but rest of the processes probably are standardized. So think of that global presence and what it means to you in terms of product and services, because that does make a difference in adoption. Customer motivation, I think customers needs change over time, and I've already spoken about human-centered design. So you need to be constantly on the alert to know how these preferences are changing. Now, thanks to the digital world, as was mentioned earlier also, you have a lot of data about the customer, and any shift in preferences is something which you might notice. So you don't want to exactly know what they have, what they want right now, which they may not be able to articulate through the data, but you will at least be able to sense that there is a shift in preference. If there are people migrating from your product to some other product, or your platform to some other product, at least that should generate a question in your mind as to why is this happening. Then you can do a human-centered analysis, an empathy study. You talk to customers and get a qualitative research done to tell you some hypothesis, which you can then run an experiment on and come to a conclusion as to why a customer is migrating, and then enhance your product accordingly. So this is going to be like an ongoing exercise. So I keep saying this. One of my nieces in US, she works for a platform-based company, and her job title is Chief of Experiments. So her job every day is to identify potential experiments that the platform should run because of changing customer expectations. So I think those are the kind of job titles. So she is a PhD in analytics. So, you'll need to have a sense of analytics and technology to be able to do a job like that, because you also, the fact that she is a PhD, she understands research as well. So therefore, framing the hypothesis, running a real life experiment on the platform, and that's what probably is the future. Good CX, I think customer experience is something which can never be overemphasized. And once you've got to a platform as a customer, the retention of the customer will depend upon the architecture of engagement, which again was spoken of earlier, and the UX itself. So your experience that the customer gets, whether it's being constantly renovated and things like that. So you don't want the same old stuff running all the time, but too much of change also sometimes affects. So there's a very delicate balance between how much of change and the nature of the change that you want to make in your experience journey. The other point about customer experience is it's an end-to-end thing. It's not just a touch point thing. So for example, on the airports, I keep saying this, airports, they have these self-check-in kiosks. Now, I actually love to do that self-check-in kiosk, but I avoid nowadays because many a times there is a crowd around the self check-in kiosk, and navigating through that crowd and getting your chance to do the self check-in becomes sometimes a challenge. So unless, you can, again, I'm going back to the point where you design a good solution, but create the right context for it to succeed also. So why can't there be a proper queuing mechanism there it's also, so that people don't run away from that solution? Now, sometimes, of course, they also have the support staff who stands there to help you. And so those of you who are not familiar with the kiosk and how to use it, they help you and assist you, etc. So those are the right things to do to make your product succeed. And then, of course, business model. So many a time the business model makes it more interesting for people to use. So the intention to use and the need, when we talked about in the earlier, I think, and the ease of use, I think the business model can be tweaked in a manner which makes it more interesting for people to use. So I love the idea of Swiggy, for example. So earlier we never had that opportunity to order, let's say, breakfast. So if you did have a restaurant where you could call up, they will say, it will take half an hour. Or he says, if you are ordering more than 400 rupees only, then I'm willing to send a man. Now, all that domination of the restaurant has been democratized, and you can actually, through Swiggy or whoever, Zomato, place an order, and irrespective of the size of the order, you'll get a delivery. So if you see how these models can create a very positive impact in terms of the usage. And even people like us who were reluctant to order food earlier are now willing to do so. On the right-hand side, there are a few more points. I think privacy, social concerns are, I think, one of them. Regulations, certainly in many of these business models, you need to be aware of, which sometimes pose a problem. So all these platform-based businesses, I think one thing, this is another frame which you have to keep in mind, which you can utilize. You need to find out what is it that attracts customers and what is it that drives customers away from me. And so that's the positive and negative network effects. So I've taken a simple example of LinkedIn, for example. So LinkedIn is essentially for professionals like us who want to be there and network and get to know people. I also probably talk about our own achievements and things like that. Now, there will, of course, be a set of customers, professionals who are very senior people like CEOs of the world, etc., who may not want to be unnecessarily hassled by people sending friend requests to them. So LinkedIn at some stage realized that, and then they created the premium LinkedIn users. So that's a paid one. So if I'm a very senior guy, I don't want any riffraff to write to me, then I have a premium account, the result of which I am not visible to everybody on the network, but I have the advantage of probably peeping into anybody. And so if I'm a recruiter, that's a good thing to do. So recruiters are attracted. So if you keep your company at the center and keep all your stakeholders around it and ask yourself this question, what is it that drives a professional to come to LinkedIn? What drives is there are so many thousands of people there, so that attracts me. Suppose as a faculty here, I need to invite people for a conference like this, etc. So LinkedIn is a good place for me to network with people and invite them. So there's a positive network effect. But what is it that can drive me away from it? So if I have too many trivial things being posted, and so LinkedIn does not allow you, first of all. For example, I don't see birthday messages and things like that. I mean, pictures and entire albums like you see on Facebook. LinkedIn does not allow you to post albums like that. So it's a very fine-tuned model for a business community. So if you are very glued on to what is your purpose in life, why do you exist as a company, then you will end up doing the right things. And that drives the right positive network effects for each of the stakeholders. Sometimes the actions that one type of a stakeholder does could have an adverse effect on another type of a stakeholder. For example, advertisements. So if you have too many blatant advertisements of personal products, etc., you would hate LinkedIn. That's not why I came here. Maybe Instagram is okay for me for that. So you need to be very mindful as a platform play company as to what you allow and what you don't allow on the network, because otherwise it will create a negative impact on the community that you're trying to build. Role of technology in all of this, I think I won't touch the right-hand side because there's only a list of technologies there which do, but I think the role of technology on the left-hand side is something which you need to understand. And I'll just touch upon a couple of points. One, I think because we are on a platform business where the dependence is high, it's 24/7 by 365, stability, reliability becomes important. Response and the CX part of it, we've already mentioned. The most important is you have people connected, but making them transact is very important because finally it's about commerce. So if you're not able to encourage the commerce to happen, there is no use of the platform, right? Unless that's the purpose of the platform, like a wiki, etc., where the intention is not commerce, but the intention is to supply information. Customer lock-in and loyalty is the other thing. How can I get people attracted and stay attracted to me for long enough? So is there something that I can do to keep them engaged and to a point of almost being a lock-in situation where the customer will not want to walk out? And a good example again of LinkedIn, let's say, or a Facebook today, let's say I have 5,000 people on my Facebook account, okay, friends. Now, if or Facebook decides to charge me, I will have no choice but to pay up because I don't want to lose those 5,000 friends. Right? And friends is a loose word for it. They're not necessarily friends, but they are some affiliations. Now, that becomes a lock-in for me. So I will be forced to pay up if Facebook tomorrow decides to charge me for that. Right? And that's an interesting phenomena. So initially, the platform needs you. Later on, you start needing the platform as a customer. And that's a phenomena that dependence which a platform creates can be a source of lock-in. And many platforms indeed leverage that to charge people or charge a transaction and things like that. Collaboration is the way to go. And I think something was mentioned about digital banks. I think the truth is, I think once every company becomes digital, a digital to digital collaboration of the entire ecosystem, whether it's a payment mechanism, whether it's a logistics supplier, whether it's a customer or a raw material supplier, I think all this will eventually become a API-based seamless collaborative commerce. And that's probably the future which we are looking at. So when you're thinking in terms of transformation, I think from a collaboration perspective as also. And collaboration is not restricted to you and your partners, which is the supply chain collaboration, nor it's a value stream or value chain collaboration. It's also bigger. It's an industry transformation at times. For example, the entire financial sector got transformed over the last 20 years. So I remember the day when we used to buy or sell shares on the stock market. It would take 6 months to 1 year to get the shares transferred. Now all that has got integrated such that the minute I transact, within a day, T+1 or T+2, I get the credit of my money or the debit of my shares or credit of my shares in my demat account. Now that's the integration between the share broker, the stock exchange, the banks, and let's say the demat companies. Now this is the transformation that we are talking about, or let's say because of the Aadhaar ecosystem, there are many more such transformations happening where the entire ecosystem is getting interconnected. I think we need to think bigger, particularly if you're a large company, you may be thinking about such kind of collaboration. There are at times collaboration with your competitor as well. Because in platform play, really speaking, you don't know who the competition is. There are some very obvious competitors, but there are many not so obvious competitors. And many a times it makes sense even to collaborate with a direct competitor because of scale advantages or scope advantages for your business, which the digital world allows. What is it that you transform? I think that's another thing which we need to think about. And there are some of them. So the product, process, position, and paradigm are the more obvious ones. There are many more subtle ones like customer experience, the new capabilities that you can create, or the new business models that the platform allows you to create, or new business rules that you might create. And if nothing else, the customer habits and the customer relationships is something which probably might be transformed. So you need to be very clear in your mind, what is it that you are trying to transform before beginning your transformation journey. And that is something, so many a time it's not one, it may be multiple of these things. And therefore you need to ensure that you have the right set of thoughts behind each one of them and the right tools and the right solutions for each one. For example, if you have an Uber, let's say, today on Uber, as soon as you get out, you give a feedback about the driver gives a feedback about you. So a result of which the relationship between you and the driver today has changed substantially, right? So drivers are more polite and you are also equally more polite towards the driver because you know that the feedback is going to affect both of us. So these are simple things which can transform a relationship. Just one example of that. So the other set of thoughts which are again conventional, I think ultimately what organizations do have to be, as this model suggests, in complete alignment with each other. So it's not as if every strategy pulls in different directions. So there has to be some coherence, as one would call it, between the three sets of strategy, be it on the business side, the organizational and systems or technology or processes. All these should be aligned. So just keep that in mind. So you can think about a digital transformation journey, and throughout the journey, keep checking in between whether this alignment between the three sides is happening or not happening. So if your say business strategy says I want to drive down costs, does your organizational strategy meet up with it? Because the organization may now think that can I do a shared service model so that I can reduce the overall cost of running a particular process. But if the organization is not thinking in that manner, then there is a lack of coherence between what the business is trying to achieve and what the organization structure is trying to deliver. The same applies to processes and technology. The other thing to keep in mind is there are a whole bunch of factors, particularly if you sit in the CIO's chair today. When you adopt a particular technology, there are various things that go in your mind. One of them is, suppose I'm part of, let's say again, since I use the name Aditya Birla Group. So I am CIO of one of the companies. What I buy is also influenced by what the group as a whole. So there's a group CIO also to whom I report to. So there could be certain norms. So for example, they will say that the ERP has to be a SAP and nothing else. So if the group has decided, you better be aligned to that, right? So influence of group structures does affect your decision. So it's not always that you buy the best, you buy what enables you as a group to benefit from the scale advantages. Industry standards, I think what you buy is many a time also clouded by, not clouded, I said in a positive sense, the industry standard helps you to decide what is the right thing to buy because you are benchmarking with the industry and want to globally connect with each other. And in the collaborative world, following industry standards become very important. There could be, depending on the industry you are on, in specific regulatory requirements. So those are things which again govern, like for example, PCI DSS is a standard which let's say in the financial sector, whether it's for your card payments or whatever. So are you aware of those and are you considering those? So you cannot make random decisions to buy because the regulatory requirements will prevail in terms of what you buy. The role of the IT department, I'll come a little later, but I think the organization culture and energy is the other thing about adoption. And I have seen in my consulting days, I've seen the success of many solutions which a company launched within the company, or many initiatives that they launched, largely decided also by the situation in which the company is. So for example, if the company is very buoyant and very successful, their willingness to adopt things will be higher. But at the same time, I've seen, because they are in a growth mode, processes go for a toss. And many technology-based solutions require a process and a process discipline, which is missing in such cases. And what tends to happen is in a successful organization, they say everything is going fine, so why do I need this sort of a solution, which is only going to put processes and burden me with that process rather than liberate me, which I am currently in that mode. So growth sometimes is both positive as well as a negative sort of a dampener on adopting new technologies. So therefore, culture plays a part. So where organizations have a culture of processes, it becomes much easier. Despite the growth, they will be committed to the processes as well. Let's say, for example, you go to a Citibank or you go to, so they are always in the growth mode, but at the same time, they have a certain discipline by which they adopt technology, and you need to be mindful of that. So you should also have a very strong focus on processes at the same time, willingness to adopt technology, and the maturity to adopt technology through repeated experiences of implementing technology. So if I'm implementing the technology for the very first time, say, let's say I'm a small SME, and for the first time I'm implementing an ERP, I will go through a lot of pain. But subsequently, every time that I implement some new thing, as an organization, I've learned how to adopt, and therefore the chance of success improves and the speed of implementation improves. There are several other factors. For example, what I already have. So as a CIO, many times, because I've already invested in a certain technology, any new technology I buy has to be compatible with what I already have. So these are the kind of factors which sort of influence the buying behavior. Last but not the least, I think if you look at the right-hand side, there are two charts. One of them is the classical Nolan's framework, which talks about any initiative that you drive in your company, a technology initiative, the adoption more or less goes through that curve. So initially you need to push it. You have to convince somebody to try it out. Let's say, for example, I'm trying, let's say, a biometric solution. So I approach the HR department and say that, please try this, and you do a demo of it and they like it. And that's the initiation phase. And then many other departments and many factories start adopting the same biometric solution, which at one place you were successful. So there's a phase of rapid growth. And then there comes a stage where you feel that you're spending too much on this technology. And there's also a lot of disconnect between the biometric reader and the payroll system, which are running as a shared service somewhere else. So the attendance data, which is collected from each factory, is not being routed properly in a manner which can be easily integrated into your payroll system. So there's a lot of duplication of effort. So now you're wanting to integrate that. So control and integration become another phase which comes, so that you optimize the solution with your existing and the new being connected properly, and reduce the overall cost and friction between these solutions. Finally, you reach a stage of maturity where everything is working fine and smooth and it's optimized, and you get the best ROI for the investment that you've made. So now the graph, if you see, is a little slow to rise and then sort of peaks and stabilizes at the top. What if you had a graph which from day one, it just shoots up at the top and then goes horizontal like that? What it would mean is that you have the ability and maturity and culture to quickly adopt a new technology, spread it rapidly in your company, implement it fast, and stabilize it, and therefore get a longer period of stable use for that technology or that initiative. If you do that, you get the best ROI. Because in conventional organizations, what happens is they take such a long time to reach maturity. By the time they reach maturity with that technology, the technology is already dead outside in the marketplace. Something new has already come up. So you are constantly doing a catch-up game with reference to the technology. So instead of that, if you had the ability to forecast, and which is the next diagram below. So if you could forecast the technology, and Gartner's hype cycle is something which most CIOs use, they give you a forecast of various technologies. So if you choose a technology much early in the day, buy it, ramp it up quickly and use it for a long period of time, then you get the maximum benefit from it. That's the message that I'm trying to give. And that's what a good CIO needs to do from an adoption standpoint. Likewise, Gartner talks about another framework, which is about deciding on products. And there are a lot of products out there in the market, but what you should buy is not always SAP. It depends on who you are. So for example, if I'm a small SME company, I don't necessarily need an SAP because I am a focused business and just doing, let's say, ceramic tiles or some such thing. I would rather look at a ERP product which delivers well for ceramic industry and not necessarily the SAP of the world, which can do so many different things, which I don't need. So it's like buying a Mercedes when I need a bicycle, So I should buy the right product. So it's important to look at product from the standpoint of not just where the product stands in the chart like this, which Gartner provides, but it's also about who I am as a company. And once you map that with this, you get the right answer. So for example, if I'm a high growth company and I'm likely to diversify in future, I may partner with a company like say Ramco Marshall or somebody who's willing to adjust and customize. And in fact, they're willing to learn from me and build a product for my industry, which they currently don't have. So that's a great advantage because you will get the product very at a low cost because they're learning from you as well. And it's a good company to partner with. You may not necessarily buy a SAP because SAP is too expensive for you at that stage. You're still in the growth mode. But there could be a company which is, let's say, very diversified, internationalized. There's so many different lines of businesses that they're running. Then SAP is an obvious choice for them, right? But let's say then I'm a very focused company, like a retail company, which I don't see myself doing anything other than that. Then maybe the product like Retech, which is now part of Oracle, which may be a focused one, or let's say a simple thing like Tally is what is enough for me. So why should I buy anything more than that? So this is how people decide to buy. So adoption also is about positioning the product to the right customer. Now I'm talking of it from a product seller point of view, to understand the motivations for why he or she is buying and convincing him that this is the product which will give him the best value. And today, I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that because many products are becoming SaaS-based products, and a lot of you students particularly will end up finding jobs in sales of SaaS-based products, or pre-sales or consulting or functional consulting of some kind. And there are a lot of opportunities in that space where your job is really to understand the business needs and challenges of a client and then map the product and its processes, which best delivers value to the customer. And that is something where some of these thoughts that I'm sharing will help you. I mentioned that we'll discuss about the role of IT and as a department, as a function in a company, and how it makes a difference. So if you look at this, there is the business side and there's the technology side, and each one of them have processes below. And there are companies where many a time there is no concept of a strategy for technology at all. So what happens is a user just calls up the IT man who's maybe a programmer or a network engineer and say, just give me this small screen and I'm done, So he makes it and delivers it. So it's a business process person driving the IT process person to do something and deliver, right? Or maybe let's say user calls up the network engineer and says, okay, please enable email for me, email services or internet services, and it is done for him. So there's no strategy involved in all of this. And then there are companies where there is a conscious strategy, but that IT strategy is based on the business strategy. The business strategy comes first, then comes the IT strategy. Just now you heard Tushar say that business and IT today sit on the same board. The CIO sits on the same board, and the result of which the decision that they take about business strategy is in the same breath as the decision they take about the IT choices that they make. I mean, there's no difference between the two. And those are really companies which are reaching that stage of digital transformation. But the last stage, as they say, is where technology sort of dominates the whole thinking of business itself. And when you think of fintechs of the world, etc., I think there's a lot of those that we are seeing increasingly, where technology is driving a lot of business decisions and business model decisions as well. So the role of IT is therefore at different stages of maturity, and you need to understand when you study a company as to what level of maturity does it represent. So is it like a facility? It's like almost having a canteen, you just call up and say, "Do cup chai de do." That's a facility. Or a service at best. If it's a little better organized, then you will know which number to call up, and you know the price of the tea that you're ordering and the time it will take to supply, etc. So that's a much better organized service. Or it can be a partner level where IT and business sort of partner with each other. And the next level is, as I said, IT as the enabler. So IT triggers a lot of business models. The other way to look at adoption is also from a strategic and financial point of view. So you're trying to look at which are those applications. So if I, as a CIO, I have a bunch of applications in mind, I'm trying to see which of those applications will really prove to be strategic for me on one side, and which will also contribute revenues to me. And those are things which I might prioritize, because if I get revenue faster, I'll be more happy. But I'm equally open to the idea that if it is not even generating revenue right now, but it has a potential for the future, I'm willing to invest, because there's always that thing about invest and harvest. So I'm willing to invest now for a better future tomorrow. But if I get something which not only is a strategic one, but also financially beneficial even right now, that obviously will get a preference. So you can prioritize your portfolio on the basis of a model like this. If nothing else, you should at least be able to articulate the benefits and costs. So one of the challenge of IT adoption has been the inability of people to write a good business case. So be able to write, I think many of you who join an organization as pre-sales people, you have to write a proposal to a customer as to why he should buy your product or service. Your ability to write a business case is extremely important. And what does a business case mean? It's, in a sense, it's benefits and costs, right? So using the right measure of success, measure of benefit and cost is very important. So from an organizational standpoint, many a time what happens is any innovative thing that somebody is doing, if you measure it using ROI measures, you are sure to kill the innovation, because innovative things don't produce financial results on day one, right? So you need to even educate your own management and educate the CFO and people like that as to which tool for assessment has to be used, which is appropriate for the situation. So for example, I sit on a lot of these awards, CIO awards, and one of the most trickiest investment is investment in security, because any security solution, technology security solution, even a simple thing like let's say something to do with spam and things like that. How do you convince your management that you need to spend so many lakhs on whatever that subscription cost is, etc., etc.? So, there is no direct benefit, because if you've not suffered an attack, the management will not realize the importance of it. So you need to give them examples what happens if there is an attack of such kind, say a cyber threat that affects you. What will be the consequential impact on your business? That's the only business case that you can provide. So what management thinks is, this is not a very hard measurable thing. So therefore the traditional ROI measures don't work here. But what the management is investing in is really a peace of mind. So any compliance oriented investment that you make is essentially from a peace of mind point of view. I don't want the tension of any legal action against me. So I'd rather invest in that solution. So that's probably one way of convincing management. So return on management, I don't want to waste my time on it. And yet I want to ensure that compliance happens. So this is how you play upon the behavioral and psychological aspects of a decision maker. And on the other hand, you have applications such as, let's say you're investing in a new payroll product. You'll obviously want to measure both the benefits and the cost, because this is a very well-defined area. There's nothing vague about it. You know, you have 1,000 or 10,000 employees for which currently you have 10 people doing the payroll calculation. You will say that with the new system, we might be able to run the payroll system with just 3 people managing it. So you have saved so many people, and that's the direct cost of saving. I mean, saving that you've shown in your business case. So this is where hard measures will become useful. So the point I'm making is show value and show the right technique for evaluation to either your customer or to your internal customer, if that's the case, like a CFO, etc. Many a time we don't express that, and then we get measured on the wrong things, and even a good product or a good idea gets suffocated because of wrong success measures. This is from an architectural point. If you look at enterprise architecture as a concept, then one of the things that you have to ask yourself is, these set of simple questions, which tells you a lot about what you need to do. What is the current health of your company? So basically all your strategic competitiveness and your financials and things like that. And so you need to understand what are the factors, key factors on which you want to deliver better. What are the KPIs that you want to improve upon? And then ask yourself, where do you want to go from there? For example, if you have customer retention at X%, how do I double that or triple that or whatever it is? So you choose a KPI on which you want to drive your transformation. Now, if that is what I want to achieve, what are the new capabilities that I will need? Let's say, for example, in e-commerce right now, if you've seen grocery business, one of the struggles of the grocery business has been that they would end up delivering the next day, and maybe the grocery is not fresh, let's say. So today, every e-commerce company has suddenly woken up to the fact that we will deliver within 2 hours. That's what they're saying. So hyper delivery is something which is happening now, and this is a new capability which they have created over the last 1 or 2 years. Amazon, Flipkart, everybody is now talking about 2-hour delivery of everything, or a DMart, etc., etc. Now, if that happens, then I think grocery, etc., becomes possible, because you get fresh stuff from the farm, and within 2 hours it gets delivered within the city, and that's, I think, a proposition which will make it more viable. But that's the new capability. Now, to make that capability work, what are the new processes that I will need? And then how can technology help me in driving that capability? If you ask these simple questions, you will get many of those answers. Finally, you have to also ask what will be the measurable outcomes. So you need to create a set of KPIs at every stage, so that you're able to monitor that the solution that you provided actually is delivering as per the promise. The other interesting point is, these KPIs have to be, the measurements have to be built into the process itself, so that it makes it easy for you to monitor it. You don't have to have a separate exercise to monitor the impact, etc. So today, in a SaaS-based product, there are enough measurements along the way in the entire process, so that you know how the SaaS product is delivering value to the customer. And I think that's a very important point to remember. So what you do is set up KPIs, right, for every stakeholder, both from the financial side as well as the non-financial metrics that you want to create. Define outcome measures, process measures, and input measures. All are equally important. Many a times when we write a justification note for IT investment, I've seen people write about process measures. So they say that we will implement so-and-so solution. It will minimize the takt time from 10 days to 3 days or something like that. So the turnaround time is what they are talking about. But that's a process measure. What does it mean from an outcome point of view? You need to also measure that. So from a customer standpoint, it has saved them X number of days, and that translates into so many more customers joining you or things like that. So you need to take the measurement to the next level at the stakeholder end as well, from the outcome standpoint. Likewise, you have process measures, but also measure the input. So maybe after automating this, it has also reduced the amount of consumption of X resource. It could be a manual resource or a machine resource or the raw material resource. So you need to measure that. So if you put all of these together, then you have a very powerful value dashboard. And if you project this to management, then they will be convinced and they will be willing to invest more in that solution. So when you talk of adoption, I think value forecasting and value measurement, and at the end, delivering on that value becomes extremely important. Last but not the least, I think the classical innovation three circles which you have seen. I think innovation happens at the sweet spot between the need, which is desirability, the business viability, and the technical feasibility. So all three of them have to be matched well for that idea or that product or that technology solution to be fully converted into a working innovation. And I've shown Steve Jobs telling a story. I think adoption is also about storytelling. You may have a fantastic product in the world, but unless you know how to showcase it, I think every product launch of Apple has been a great event, and you need to learn from it, because I think today we have other forms of, should I say, mechanisms for driving adoption, like influencers, etc. So these are people who talk about your product and share experiences about it. You need to leverage all of that that's available. But the other important point I want to make here is, the slide heading says tempering and validating. So whatever innovation you've created, it's not a complete thing. It's a series of experiments that you're running. So this is just the beginning. So you heard of the term MVP. So this is a series of products that you're launching over a period of time. So you need to also listen to customers all the time about feedback, and therefore constantly look at what needs to improve. So adoption is also about being aggressive in terms of acquiring customer feedback about your existing MVP that you have launched. So with that, I will stop. Those are my coordinates. Any questions? Happy to take a few if there's time. So, and thank you again, Professor Jha and
thank you, ma'am.
Chandan.
Thank you, sir.
I'll stop sharing. Any questions?
Correct. Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Basically, when you were talking about pure play, Yes Bank tried coming. Yes Bank in most of the countries was actually a pure play. But when Yes Bank tried entering into Indian market with a pure play, there was a cultural issue, because people were thinking bank means it should be physical. If my money is somewhere, is not came out of my ATM and all, though I will put an email, but I'll go physically to the bank to talk. So do you think culture also plays a very important role when you talk about brick and mortar and pure play? Brick and mortar worked very well for us, but pure play hardly worked, only for delivering or distribution and all that.
Right. So I think there are various ways of answering this. One is sometimes the idea or the innovation is ahead of its time in a given context. So you'll find many brilliant ideas don't work in a certain context. And this is, you are talking about the customer context. So maybe customers are simply not ready to adopt that. So there's a maturity side of the customer as well. Second way to look at it is that you may probably want to realign your product, and that's why the concept of localization becomes important. I gave you that McDonald's case. So I happen to be doing some training for McDonald's here at Welingkar, and those days, those store managers of McDonald's says, no, we have these burgers and nothing else. And then after a while, we found that they actually set up a R&D team to understand what Indian customers really like. So even a dominant player like McDonald's had to accept the fact that in our local culture, some modifications of the product need to be done to suit the taste. So I think Those are things which you need to understand. The third is, I didn't have that slide unfortunately today, but I think many of you would know the Rogers model, right? Of adoption, innovation adoption or technology adoption. I think the biggest challenge is to move from, and I referred to that when I took the example of electric vehicles. So the innovators of the world and the early adopters will anyway buy into something, but it is the mass customer who does not willingly adopt, and because the use case is very different for them, you need to give the right value to them, which means the product has to be morphed or modified to suit the use case of the customer. And then of course there's a communication challenge which allows you to bridge the gap between the early adopters and the mass adopters. So you need influencers who can do that for you. So those were some thoughts, and I think what you said is very right, that culture has to be studied, the context has to be studied properly, which is why we call it user-centered design today.
Pradeep sir, if I may get into the discussion, wonderful talk about it. But normally, I asked the previous speaker also, because that's something which is coming to my mind quite often now. Okay, where do we draw the line between innovation and compulsion? Okay, so is technology driving an innovation, or is technology making the adoption compulsory for the people to work with? Okay, especially after the pandemic lockdown and so on and so forth. So is it, what is your take on it? Is it that, still people feel like, for example, our very theme, and we have been debating a lot, okay, the technology innovation, the only way ahead. And there has been a lot of debate on that, the only way, okay? Is it a complementary or supplementary, or is it something that? So I just want to have a view of yours. Is there a thin line difference between being innovative, bringing in technology as a compulsion, or is it really going to be a disruption? These are the terms which is really complicating a lot of things, especially the young. When we teach to the young guys these things, we say, well, disruption is something good, but then compulsion and disruption, there has to be a difference. So these are four terms, innovation, disruption, and compulsion. Right. So what's your take on that?
So I think one thing which has been said repeatedly is that for so many years that we've wanted to transform, drive adoption, etc., which happened at a certain pace, but not fully. But there are multiple things which made it possible. One is, for example, I gave you the example of the Aadhaar infrastructure, and there are so many other infrastructures which got created, which were the building blocks to many other transformations. The second is, I think this COVID, what you said, speeded up the entire process, because once one door closes, humanity will look for another door.
Absolutely.
Luckily, that door was already available, just that people were not willing to use it earlier, or very reluctantly use it. So now they have tasted it. And one other explanation for that is there is this fear of the unknown. And now that you have used it and you've had a fairly decent experience, may not be the best experience, but a decent experience, you are willing to keep using it. So those of us who probably were not convinced may have gone back to the old ways, but those who are probably had a good experience with the digital world have stayed on with the digital world, and you can't think of going back again, right? So sometimes I think these disruptive forces, and in fact, if you read the work of Clayton Christensen on disruptive innovation, one of the factors of disruptive innovation is such unexpected events like COVID. But there are many times things like deregulation, for example, which is also sort of unexpected, but maybe at a B2B level, people are aware of it because they are also influencing government to make changes to the regulations. But every regulation and the change in the regulation does create new opportunities for a set of people and probably kills certain businesses as well. So I think these disruptive forces will remain, and we need to only be able to sense these disruptions which are coming and respond to them. I don't think there's any other answer to that.
So do you think that as a academician, we now have to relook at the curriculum more often.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But if you notice, that is why I purposely put in some older frameworks and some newer frameworks. I think the older frameworks still have a value and validity, but there are newer ones which are more of, let's say, adoptions of the same, but modifications, etc., which in the current context that they are looking at.
So those classical, sorry, I'm just last sentence of mine. I know students may be having some. Those classical specializations which we always felt, finance, marketing, operations, and all. Do you think their relevancy will still continue, or it is possible that the component digital will take over this specialization in more than one way?
So my sense is, I think going forward, the role of specialists will be there, but it will be limited because you need to have that knowledge base to be able to even train a AI engine. But those will be fewer number of people. But the rest of them have to be generalists and have to be technology savvy as well. So irrespective of which domain they belong to. So I think interdisciplinary approach will help, particularly for technology students. They may decide to focus on a certain vertical if they like, I mean, like retail or e-commerce, whatever.
Thank you, sir. I think we're going to have this theme in our next Board of Studies discussion.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Over to you, students, if you have questions.
I think I'm coming in the way of their lunch now. So.
No, sir, still time is there.
Okay.
Okay. Just one thing, you took time from your busy schedule and, agreed to be here. We are really thankful. Like, I know so many people are waiting for you. There are so many meetings lined up for you for NBA accreditation, and still you have agreed. It's really, big thing for us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think it was a pleasure and an honor, I think, as always.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In fact, we do have those accreditation process in the coming week. So we need your best wishes also.
Yeah. And their dates keep changing. No? So
absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this was to happen in December. It kept moving from December to January to February. So whatever commitments I've made, there is going to be a clash like this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. But thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Looking forward to more and more interaction as we go. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'll log off then. Yeah.
Thank you for the enriching discussion that we had, and thanking everyone to be a part of this. Now we will be going off live stream and we will be having a break till 1:30. Thank you.